One important dark evening, an unknown boy sits under a tree to hide from the downpour. He sat calmly and waited until the rain stopped. He had a cute pet on his shoulders. Suddenly, he took out a piece of food from his pocket so that his animal would calm down from the detour. At that moment, he turned around and saw someone's horse galloping towards him. A girl with a sword in her hands confidently jumps towards the main character. Because of this surprise, the main character took off his hat and does not understand what is happening here. The girl turned around and saw that a guy unknown to her stood up, but she did not pay attention to this and continued to drive further. Suddenly, a pulled rope appeared in front of the horse. Before they could react, they both fell sharply to the ground. But at this moment, the girl manages to react and jumps up from the seat on the horse with her leg. A moment later, she is on the ground. At this moment, she hears some sounds behind her in the bushes. Do not hesitate to think about it, as unknown soldiers appear behind her who immediately began to attack her. Without thinking for a long time, she retreats and activates her abilities. Having gathered energy in her hands, she hits the ground with her hand. A powerful electric shock is generated. A thick gray smoke formed around these soldiers. The girl is watching intently to see if everything is finished. But to her surprise, she saw that these amazing warriors remained alive and were looking at her through the smoke. At this moment, the main character clutches his mug from the rain. Suddenly he heard that someone's horse was galloping again from the same direction. Turning to the horse, he thought that it was the unknown girl again. But at this moment, the horse rises on two legs and throws its rider to the ground. Without thinking for a long time, the guy approaches the man and asks if everything is okay with him. Barely speaking, the man tries to say something about that girl. It seems that the main character realized that she's now in danger. Confusion was visible in his eyes. At that moment, the girl decided to run away from the group of these warriors into the forest. For an unknown reason, she abruptly stops this. It turns out that she has fallen into a trap and there is nowhere to run because there is a lake here. The girl hears loud steps of soldiers behind her. They shout that she will not run away anywhere now. Suddenly, the girl decides to jump into this reservoir. It was unexpected for anyone. But at that moment, a group of warriors prepared a giant crossbow. The leader orders them to act faster and not let the girl escape. A quick, powerful arrow flies towards the girl. It sweeps over the pond and leaves a large trail. She seems unable to do anything. But at that moment, a splash of water appears in front of her. A small tornado forms in front of her, which destroys the arrow aimed at her. She does not understand what is happening and whose hands it is. She turns to understand if someone is behind her. Turning around, she saw a boy and a man familiar to her on the boat. The man shouts for the girl to immediately swim to their boat. She diligently moves her hands to get to a safer place as soon as possible. At this moment, the warriors do not waste a moment, and drawing their arrows, they aim at this girl. The main character sees what they are cooking. Reaching out, he activates his magical ability. Pointing it at the warrior, he was surprised that they also possessed some magic. He understands that these are thunder runes and they are very strong. The girl informs that there are runes on the bodies of the warriors that restrain lightning, that it is not such a good idea to take a fight. She offers to swim away because she cannot involve him in this situation. The guy confidently said that running away was not his style. Instead of going away, he would fight back. A moment later, a powerful thick bolt of lightning appeared above the soldiers, its glow turning the darkness into light. At the place of impact, a deep, wide groove appeared. The girl continues to sit on the boat and realizes that this is quite powerful magic. The boy understands that these warriors are very strong, but fortunately after his rebirth, he became interested in hostile thunder magic. Otherwise, it would have been very bad. He warns that it is dangerous here and you need to swim to Como. There is a cave on the other side and they will hide there. After a few minutes, they found themselves in the same cave, having made a fire. They began to warm their wet clothes. The man tells the girl that her clothes are already dry and hands her over. Suddenly, she came out from behind the stone. Seeing her main characters was surprised. She began to thank him for what he did. The guy understands that she is very beautiful. He assures her that it is not necessary to thank her. If it is convenient for her, then let her tell what kind of people were those who persecuted her. But if she is uncomfortable to tell about it, then he does not insist on anything. Sitting down by the fire, she said that the people who chased her were the Ling troop. They had their eyes on their family's treasure. They thought the treasure was with her, and all this time they were following her tail. It seems that the guy knows who this man is. He understands that he will have to deal with him again. He wonders what kind of treasure it is that made them chase her. At this moment, the man interrupts the conversation and calls the lady. He asks for his forgiveness, but strangers cannot know about this treasure. The guy says that it's okay. If it's not possible, he doesn't insist. They continued to stay in this cave and warm themselves by the fire. The girl turns to her husband, whose name is Feng. As soon as the morning begins, let him go home. Feng is against this, because it is very dangerous to leave her alone. The girl said that it was an order and who said that she would be alone. Turning to the boy, she said that wherever he goes, she will go there. The girl decided to follow where the main character goes. After a few hours, he finds himself in front of the Heavenly Temple. Then he came to participate in the third selection tournament. The man told him to follow him. At this time, the girl follows his actions. She understands that this guy is a disciple of the Heavenly Temple. Now she is not surprised why he is so strong. At this moment, many participants gathered in the heavenly temple in the arena. The main character is also among these participants. Suddenly he hears someone calling him. It was Qianzhan. She sees that the boy has returned after all. She already thought that he was not going to come to the trials, because they agreed to come to the selection tournament together. Chenli asks not to be angry. Yes, he didn't just disappear like that, he was looking for his friend. Seeing this animal, the girl could not resist it. She said that the test is very easy. You need to master the art of swordsmanship in just 3 days. You will not even need time for preparation. Dongshun walks up to them and begins to laugh. In his opinion, even a genius student like him mastered the technique of a mid-level summoned windsword in 2.5 days. Qianzhan doesn't understand what kind of mediocrity this is. She doesn't understand what he spent so many days on, because the main character mastered this technique on the very first day. Dongshun gets angry and does not believe that this is possible. He says that she should not chase after him. Chenli suddenly asks what will happen if he takes first place. Dongshun exclaims that in that case he will kneel before him and call him his grandfather. Suddenly the judges attract attention. They announce that information about the qualifying tournament is being announced. Elder Zhang, the head of the Heavenly Temple, confidently lands in front of the participants. Pointing his finger, he said that in this test they need to go through an army of wooden soldiers and reach the main hall in the temple on top of the mountain. No matter what methods, if they get to the main hall, the trial will be passed. The first 10 people will become members of the Sky Temple. In order to pass the gorge, they will have to use the Phantom Windsword technique they learned 3 days ago. Qianzhan asks if the hero is sure that he will defeat him. Chenlei jokingly said that who would refuse the appearance of Onuk. Suddenly the foreman blew a loud whistle and thus started this test. The participants started running headlong to be the first. But after a moment, the wooden warriors successfully disqualify them. Chenlei continues to run and sees that many participants lose immediately, dodging the attack. He realizes that it is quite difficult. But at this moment, the girl fights with wooden warriors and says that for her it is not a hindrance at all. In fact, this fencing technique is based on the power of the windbreaker, although it is fast, but there is a specific pattern. Using the right actions in the technique, she successfully destroys several warriors. Suddenly, the foreman is asked about who he thinks will take first place in this challenge. It is said that the grandson of Foreman Dunn is participating in this test. This young man is very gifted from birth, and despite his arrogance, has amazing insight. Does he think that Dongshun will take the first place? The foreman said that it is not necessary to draw conclusions until the time is up. Everyone who came to this tournament is quite talented. Dongshun confidently advances through these wooden warriors. He shouts that he will definitely be the first. Suddenly, the foreman sees what looks like someone has already finished the trials. Without thinking for a long time, they left the inspection site and headed for the final destination. They understand that this guy is not Dongshun, but because of the great distance, they cannot see who this member is. The contestant takes the last step and the foreman lands in front of him. It turns out it was the protagonist from the Chen clan. Ping respectfully greets the elder. The foreman sees that this young man has amazing abilities. He wanted to say something else, but at that moment he saw that other participants were approaching. Qianzhan agrees that the main character really came first. The tortured Dongshun appears from the expected first place and arrives third. He looks at them and does not understand how the two of them did it. It does not fit in his head. How did they manage to overtake him? He thinks that they were obviously cheating. Chenlei says that they came honestly to the test and what he wants from them. Suddenly the foreman stands in front of him and asks if he doubts his competence. But only because of the position of this guy's grandfather. He will turn a blind eye to this act. Suddenly the girl asks if he hasn't forgotten anything. Lenli understands that people sometimes don't know how to think. However, he lived for so many years before his rebirth that he really deserves to be a grandfather. After hearing these piercing words, Dongshun gets very angry but cannot say anything in their direction. Suddenly, he decides to just run away from this humiliation. The main character after the trial came to his family. They were happy that he came to the trials. Now he is officially a disciple of the Heavenly Temple. Now everyone around calls them from Qianzhan, the pride of Qinyan. The father says that his son has entered the Heavenly Temple, but he does not understand what the demonic order is about. I assure Chenlei that they have nothing to worry about. The Heavenly Temple is the most protected place. Now the demonic order cannot reach it, but it will not be safe for them and the clan to be here. Some self-improvement practices are recorded in these notebooks. He suggests taking them and studying them so that in case of danger they can protect themselves. Lately there have been some adventures, but in general he asks not to worry and just practice. In his past life he was an emperor, so he still has some knowledge left. Father and his family. He promises that in this life he will not allow anyone to harm them, because in the past life he could only watch them leave, but now he won't allow it. The demonic order in this life will deal with him at home. He will not leave them alone. Qianzhan thought it would be difficult to enter the Heavenly Temple. She did not expect the trial to be so easy, but she understands that it was all thanks to the advice of the main character. Suddenly, he noticed that something dangerous was happening around them. At that moment, an arrow appears behind him, which he manages to dodge. Turning around, he does not understand what is happening here. He saw that behind them was the same member of the coma, who had taken several soldiers with him. The girl does not understand how they united. Did they study their technique and find people whose paths they crossed? He thinks that it was not difficult for them at all. The man said that the main character more than once spoiled all his plans, and today he blossoms with him. The boy turns to Jochen. He reminds that his father is the head of the clan. He contacted the demonic order to get power for his betrayal. Will he admit his betrayal and be expelled from the clan? Dongshun cannot listen to these words and orders his men to attack. Suddenly, the main character with one wave of his hands creates a lightning strike in front of him that scatters the soldiers in all directions. Chenlei says that the man conspired with his grandson and gathered several people against him. Juochan is enraged, pounces together with the boy, and they attack the two main characters. He seems to be able to touch the boy's face, but at that moment his body dissolves. Suddenly he is surrounded by clones of the main character. They do not understand what kind of technique it is and what is happening. They look around and do not understand which of these clones are real and which are not. Chenlei apologizes because they will have to leave this world. Being between them, he activates the technique with 2 hands. His enemies cannot withstand this blow. The girl says that he did not give her the opportunity to interfere in this fight at all. Dongshun gets very angry. He does not believe that this is possible. The main character cannot be so strong. Chenlei steps on him and asks if something is wrong with him. Suddenly, Zanzhan shouts for the main character to be careful. Chenlei was startled by this cry. He tries to see what she means. Turning around, he saw Dongshun attacking him. He was using the lion spike technique. Before he had time to react, the main character receives damage from these small arrows. Zanzhan approaches him and asks him how he is doing. He realizes that because of his thoughtfulness, he, the great Emperor Chenlei, was attacked. Dongshun is angry. How dare he humiliate him in front of such people? He thinks that this is his payback. The girl was very angry because of his subterfuges. And yes, she calls him names. The guy asks not to worry because she will be next. But first he wants to finish the case with the main character. Lenli says that this technique and silver needles will not protect him from lightning. At this moment, he accumulates energy in his body to activate one of his abilities. Immediately after that, he puts his hands forward and small invisible attacks come out of him. The boy cannot turn away from them and receives dozens of such blows on his body. The main character closes the girl's eyes so that she does not see how his opponent loses shamefully. Someone's serious voice appears from heaven, which asks who dared to harm his grandson. Foreman Dunn appears from the sky and lifts the boy up with his own strength and holds him in his arms. The elder tries to bring his grandson back to consciousness. Dongshun opens his eyes and sees his grandfather in front of him. Suddenly, the foreman shouted that they would pay for this act. The girl makes fun of him, because just a few seconds ago such words were spoken by his grandson. The main character says that she is not a problem here, and he himself will be responsible for these actions. The fact is that this boy was the first to attack him. The foreman does not believe this. His grandson was maimed by him and he wants justice. He continues to hold his grandson in his arms and activates dangerous equipment around him. These arrows fly at high speed in the direction of the main character. He tries to protect himself from them. But he does not succeed in this, and falling to the ground, he rubs against it for several more meters. Immediately after that, Foreman Dunn turns to the girl. He says that now it is her turn. Suddenly at this moment, another senior appears in front of him and tries to stop him. He assures that the student made a mistake. He does not mean to punish him, but why destroy him? Dunn was in a state of rage. He says that this guy injured his own grandson. Lenlei explains that his grandson hates him because of the results of the test that took place that day. He mocked him and started the attack first. He defended himself. Dunshin asks that his wound should be treated first. The foreman agrees because his health is more important than these clashes. Dong assures that the main character is lucky. He is saved today, but being Xuan's enemy does not mean anything good for him. Immediately after that, he takes his grandson and flies to his house. Another foreman says that at such an age it is not worth making enemies. He may find himself helpless at any moment, and next time they should rely only on themselves. Immediately after that, he also flies to his base. The girl does not understand what he meant. You assure Zanzhan that if he comes back, she will immediately use the tablet to protect herself. Pulling out the tablet, the main character asks how he will come back in the first place. Despite the fact that Elder Jian appeared, he still did not want to offend another elder. It seems that Elder Xuan's influence is very great. Chenlei says that from now on he is not afraid of anything and will fight for justice. At this moment, the girl who was saved by the main character came to the Xuan temple. The elder assures that they do not have the elixir that their clan is waiting for, and why she came here, and her father does not keep his promises. The girl says that she has her own plans and permission her clan. The head of the TF and SG clan shouts that this is enough. She may not call him by name. For a start, he will try to figure it out himself. Bowing and bowing to him, the girl thanked him. All participants gathered in the Temple of the Black Sky. There was complete silence between them. Master Hui asks if during the exam anyone found the many promised resources. Master Zhang says that there is one student named Chen Lei. At the end of this exam, the main character completely surprised him. He firmly intends to take it. At that moment, they were approached by participants who showed themselves well. Here the students received a promotion except Dunshun, who is now recovering. The man turned to the main character and understands that now will make his life worse than the end, for what he did to his grandson. The main character sees his angry face, and also looks at him angrily. The Emperor asks which of them is Chen Lei. The protagonist came forward and saluted him. The Emperor says that he will now learn from the representative of the Northern Peak mentor, Dun. The main character was surprised and scared at the same time. He wants to ask why, exactly. The other said that the Northern Peak is the most important among the peaks, and their leader mentor is second only to the master in his position. He assures that Dun greatly appreciates the main character and he is lucky. After hearing these words, the boy realized that he actually has big problems. He heard that in the past, the most talented students could choose their mentor. And if they could, why not choose him himself, because he was the best in this exam. This made the other foremen think. They looked at each other. One of them stood up and said that if he was the best, then he thinks so too. Dun asks who dared to argue with him. Another foreman asks the other to stop, because in the Temple of the Black Sky, Dun is the only one in charge, and why is he going against him? The elder said that it is a pity, but this temple is full of mentors, but he is the only one who liked the main character. Zanjan is worried, because the main character has made so much noise that the other mentors don't even dare to take him to the students. The boy asks her to calm down. Elder Dun said that if he really does not want to be promoted, he can leave this temple altogether. The Emperor laughs and assures that the boy is still young, and a little encryption won't hurt him. The main character had to go through so much before reaching this moment. If he gives up now, it means that his opponents lost to him in vain. He takes the tablet and bows before the foreman, giving him a salute. But in his heart he is full of hatred and revenge, which he wants to do. The girl assures that the mentor took him as a student, only to know that Chen Lei came to the Temple of the Black Sky so that his family would be safe, and he cannot back down in the face of difficulties. If he wants to know, he needs to see if the foreman has enough skills for this. At this moment, he notices that his pet is becoming too emotional. It turns out that the girl whom he saved approached him. Chen Lei asks what she is doing here. She says that she is now a disciple of the Black Sky Temple. He asks angrily if she is really a disciple of the Temple of the Black Sky, then that day she could immediately run to the temple and ask for help. Is she approaching him on purpose? The girl said that she has no thoughts about it. At this moment, Xuanmo, who came to pick up the main character, approaches them. The ceremony of choosing a mentor has long been over. Now he is a disciple of the Northern Peak. He asks why he has not come to him yet. Without thinking for a long time, the main character set out to follow in the footsteps of this foreman. Zanjan loudly tells him to be careful. Turning to her, he said that he knows and smiled. After a few minutes, they and the mentor's assistant came to the majestic Northern Peak. Extending his hand, Xuanmo showed where to go and asked to pass. Xuanmo mockingly asks, is he afraid? If he lacks courage, then let him ask for help. Without thinking long, the main character immediately followed this chain. Is he trying to instill fear in him? With the help of his abilities, he easily holds onto this chain. The mentor's assistant is surprised and does not understand how he does it. The main character waved his hand and said that he was going on. After a few seconds, he finds himself on one of the stages of this mountain. He sees that there is almost waist-deep grass here. He doesn't understand. Has anyone been here for a long time? These guys from the Northern Peak know how to humiliate him. Walking along the path, the boy says that he has arrived, and what other obstacles have been prepared for him. Suddenly he hears laughter in the forest. A voice asks if he's a disciple of the old man Dun. The unknown man is referring to the head of the North Peak. Does the main character call him mentor? Chen Lei confirms that he took his disciples. But just to get revenge on him, a voice from the forest tells him to just attack this elder first. The main character understands that the mentor is probably not on good terms with this man. His enemy is now his friend, but he is not sure if this man is doing well with his mind. He hears more laughter from the forest, but he decides to just continue on his way. At this moment, the foreman and his grandson are sitting and waiting for the main character. While waiting, they talk about the future revenge and their plan. Not even a few seconds passed when Chen Lei walked confidently into their house. The main character reports that he came to him and defends him. Elder Dun is angry. He orders the boy to bow down and from now on call his father mentor. After hearing the words, Chen Lei replies that he will not worship because he does not deserve it. To the point that his grandson undertook to call him grandfather, to whom it turns out they are equal, so he cannot be a mentor father for him. After these words, Dongshun will be very angry because the main character has fallen into the clutches of his grandfather, and he dares to argue with him. Taking his chariot in his hand, he spins the wheels to attack the boy. Chen Lei pushes his wheelchair. Only after arriving, the student leaves this world on the very first day. He asks as a mentor to explain this to the master. The foreman answers that he will say that the student did not treat the mentor with respect and went to think about his problems in the dungeon under the forest. Looking at the boy with an angry look, He assures that he is still tormented by him. Without thinking long, he throws the main character into a dark dungeon. There are several dangerous monsters in this dungeon, but it is not scary for him, and he understands that only children can be scared by such monsters. Luckily for him, these monsters were chained up. Their noise did cause some concern. Chenlei asks why the monster is attacking him if he is chained up. Suddenly, he heard a voice that he heard recently in the forest. He asks if it is really him speaking. The man understands that the foreman really hates the boy. He just managed to enter the hall recently, and after a moment he finds himself in this dungeon as well. The man shouts that if he manages to last a few Sundays and not lose his mind, he will tell him everything. Chenlei tries to calm down and decides to go to bed. He wishes this man a good night. These ghosts are also part of these trials. Their task is not to let him sleep. They are here without light, without people, without sleep, and without hope. The man asks if he knows how many people here have gone crazy before him. The main character asks if this man is also locked up here. But the man wonders how he found out. But what surprises him most is why the main character is not afraid. Chenlei assures that he is not only not afraid, but has even figured out how to save him. The northern peak almost reaches to the sky, and this place is similar, almost reaches to hell, as if he is in the middle of the center of the earth. The man understands that the hero is intelligent, but he is still far from fully understanding the situation. There are evil forces everywhere here. Probably this is also part of the test. The main character became interested in how many people this man has harmed. The boy understands that even the iron chain was part of this trial, but it was an iron chain that connected the northern peak with the temple of the black sky where the master lives. The man is sitting in the center of the room and is in worse conditions. Lenli asks if today's master and the foreman have imprisoned him here. Suddenly, the main character asks if he is the same past master. Putting his ear to the wall, he wanted to hear the answer. But at this moment, cracks with hot flames appear under his feet. Immediately after that, a big hole appears into which the boy falls. The man asks how he found out who he is in the end. Did the foreman send him here to follow him? The main character immediately understood. He spent so much time in past lives, and he saw this many times. Everything he said now was only his own guess. The man says that the hero's real strength is still so weak that he definitely won't save him. The man suggests just leaving him. The main character confusedly asks where he should go. The hostage says that he will find a door behind him in the dark. It leads directly to that iron chain. He was glad to meet him, and also gives a small gift in his hands. The guy thanks for the help. He asks not to worry, and he will definitely figure out how to free him. At this moment, the girl is approaching the northern peak. She knows that there is only one road to the north peak that is not guarded by anyone. Suddenly, in the distance, she saw that someone was quickly descending the chains. Lenli has successfully freed himself from this terrible place and descends quickly to the bottom. After a few seconds, he lands at high speed next to this girl. Seeing her, he was angry to meet her again. She said that she was just looking for him. Their first meeting was accidental, and she didn't really explain about the second one. Now she's following him near the north peak. He suspects that something is wrong here. He asks why she is worried about him. She says that she can't worry when her hot one is in danger. The main character sees that she does not decide to tell the truth and prepares to attack. But at the same second he calms down because he never runs after girls. He has a lot to do and he asks not to disturb him. After walking a few steps, he bumped into Zanzan. Seeing the boy, she said that she had an urgent conversation with him. Seeing another girl, she asks if she did not disturb them. Taking her by the shoulders, Lenli orders her to say what she wanted to say faster. Excitedly, she says that today after he left, she was taken in by a mentor from the top of the dragon. She asks if he knows who the first dragon student was. It was Xiao Kun. He came from the demonic order. After hearing this information, the main character felt cold shivers. Another girl intervenes in their conversation. As far as she knows, Xiao Kun was an orphan and was raised by temple mentors from childhood, and she wonders how he can be connected to a demonic order. Suspicious, Zanzan asks the main character if this girl is with them now. Unbeknownst to her, the girl said that the members of the demonic order wanted to destroy her because she also had accounts with them. Suddenly, without thinking for a long time, Zanzan said that she believed her. That same night, at the foot of Dragon Peak, Zanzan stands by the cliff. She heard someone's steps behind her. She turns around and asks who is there. She saw that it was the first disciple of the Dragon Peak, Xiao Kun. Seeing him, she was very surprised. He asks why she is still awake. Qianzhan said that her mentor just took her in today, so she decided to go for a walk. Xiao Kun had heard that she was from Qingyang City. The city was certainly far away, but many prominent people were from this city. After hearing this information, she asked if he was in the city. The boy said that when he was still very young, he and his mentor traveled and passed through these cities. Suddenly she saw something strange about this boy. Why the silhouette seemed so familiar. After a moment she realized that she saw him in front of her. That night, Chen Zhuo's group in collusion with the demonic order stormed into their city and had a battle there. She saw this boy among the demonic order's squad with her own eyes. That day, he did not get his hands dirty, but his people treated him with respect. They came here just to be under the protection of the Black Sky Temple. But if the Black Sky Temple is so closely connected with the demonic order, then she is worried about what they should do now. The hero turns to Lei, through her eyes in the Black Sky Temple. No one knew about the true identity of Xiao Tseng, or did you not know? Lei said that the hero just said that Zhao Kun was called the Wolf Prince. He was the nephew of the founder of the demonic order. In those years they often fought in various distant cities. After hearing this information, Qianzhan was overcome with great fear. The hero calms her down. Qingyang is just one small city. The demonic order would not show its presence in the temple so imprudently through it. He orders Lei not to tell anyone what she heard today, not to scare them ahead of time. Taking Qianzhan with him, he said that they needed to leave immediately. It is still unclear who this girl is for them, an enemy or a friend. He asks why she told him all the information. Qianzhan thought that they have a close relationship, but if it is not so, then she is satisfied. The main character does not understand why she is smiling like that. Qianzhan asks how he ended up here in the middle of the night if his mentor Dong locked him in a dungeon. The boy said in a confident voice that he escaped. He can't catch anyone's eye yet. She said that she was here recently, and does not personally know the location of the temple, so she offers to hide with her for a few days. They need to climb to the top of the dragon, and she knows only one way. She also heard that now, in order to get to any of the peaks, everyone simply teleports, and no one walks on iron chains anymore. Qianzhan thinks that with her token the two of them will be able to teleport. However, she suggests that they at least try. Suddenly, the teleportal activates and takes the beam from the boy. He loses control, the girl was worried, because he is without a token and the alarm system can go off. Falling to her knees, the girl is worried. She does not know where the main character has now teleported. Suddenly, she heard his voice behind her. She turned around and couldn't believe her eyes. So that she wouldn't make a noise, the main character kept her quiet. He has something important to tell. He asks if she remembers that there used to be legends that a group of evil demons were supported by strangers. Now he is afraid that it is true. In addition, even the master of the Black Sky Temple himself joined them, and is now going to sacrifice the factors to the Chim army. Hearing this information, the girl was very shocked. She asks where he was just now and how he knows that. According to legend, aliens are extremely dangerous and feed on humans, but aren't they restrained by a defensive line? In his past life, he was the same naive lump for 500 years. He was in the service of a border town until he learned how fragile the defense line was. The main character assures that the matter is quite serious, and she should listen to him. At the moment when he was teleported, he got to some unknown place. Having appeared there, he does not understand where he is. But I heard that I closed the door, and heard very familiar voices. Looking into a small crack, he realized that he was in the Imperial courtyard. He sees that an unknown entity is sitting on the throne, who says that next month they will launch an army, and asks if all the victims are ready. The boy understands that it is the priest Bin. The elders came to him. They mumbled that they accepted many young participants, and everything is going according to their plan. Bean laughingly replies that they will soon finally break through the defenses, and since these are their students, then they only have to teach them half the knowledge. The emperor and the foreman ask not to worry. For their part, they will make every effort and provide internal support. Chenlei listened to these conversations and was frightened, because in his past life when their defenses collapsed, the whole country was Wuxian wounded and hungry. And now he understands that this was their plan. Suddenly Bean felt that someone was following him, and activated his ability in the direction of the door. He directed his power and energy into the door. It was destroyed. But after the impact, he saw that there was no one behind them, but the front door was open. After that, the main character was again in prison near her husband. The man asks where he was for so long, whether he saw everything he was supposed to see. It seems that the main character understood that this man specially let him go, and gave him a token so that he could see how the master cooperates with strangers. He asks why he did it. Having rushed to him, the man said that he just liked him. He thought he would immediately teleport to them, and who knew that he would be with the girls for half a day. Lenli asks if he wanted to expose the master. He would have said everything right away. Why did it have to be complicated to the eyes? The war between humans and aliens has been going on for more than 10,000 years. Human defense is already less dense or lascivious. Many of those who lived at the expense of some and served others appeared by themselves. He regretted that when he learned the truth, he did not destroy these two immediately. It was worth him to wait a little as everything turned against him. The heroes say that these people mentioned that they would sacrifice strangers and all new students. The man said that he would probably be the first on the list because he is hated the most. He specifically did all this so that the hero himself would understand everything. He is a smart guy, because he also hates the foreman, the best candidate to stop all this. Suddenly the hero bowed to him and thanked him. The man was surprised. Was he not afraid at all? If he didn't tell him the whole truth, the aliens' plot might succeed. The defense line would soon collapse and immediately fall into trouble. He couldn't imagine what would happen then. At the threshold of such terrible times, heroes think first of all about people, and not about their lives. The man was pleasantly surprised. Lowering his eyes, he reminded that there was a little time left. He had better start preparing now. The girl assures that it will be difficult for the two of them to harm the strangers and launch the army. Chim suggests the main characters not to look at the strong one in front of Como, and they will deal with the situation. Pulling out a chi booster, he offers to take it, so she can get closer to the goal of true energy faster and become stronger. She wonders where he got this resource from. This guy with a head suggests not to ask too many questions. Clenching her fist, she firmly said that she trusted him. For now, he will go down to the foot of the mountain and look for a quieter place who needs to reach the highest prosperity as soon as possible. Hearing these words, she was very surprised because he's not even 15 years old. Is he joking? The guy said that nothing is impossible for him. At this time, the events are taking place at the foot of the temples of the Black Sky, the city of Shan. Chenlei is renting a room for alchemy for 3 days, and I also want to order some medicine and ingredients. Suddenly, the main character realized that his wallet was taken before being sent to the dungeon. A female hand appeared in front of him and gave him 1 sapphire. He turned around and saw a familiar girl. He asks how she ended up here. Is she following him again? Lei was worried that he didn't take money with him. That's why she came. The guy said that carrying sapphires with him is not heroic at all. After a few minutes, the two of them locked themselves in the room. The main character demands that she finally tell him the truth. Lei sees that there is no point in hiding and confesses that she came to the Temple of the Black Sky only for his sake. She decides to ask directly if she is wondering if he is the Guardian of Thunder. Leaning against the door, this question did not surprise him. Was it something from the glass of Lord Thunder's cannon? Hearing these words, Lei was surprised that he knew about the Lord of Thunder. Through the canon of the Lord of Thunder and from generation to generation, the divine technique of battle was passed down. To be a Guardian of Thunder means to be on the first stage before becoming a Lord of Thunder. To tell the truth, she herself is the Guardian of Thunder, but since the canon is lost, she at least has this essence. But she cannot use it. In his past life, he accidentally found half of the canon, which is why he was able to revive the Guardian of Thunder in himself. Unfortunately, he did not find the second part after a failure on the threshold of success. He doesn't know Lei enough to discuss such topics. She understood that and promised to prove to him the sincerity of her thoughts. She thanks him for dispelling her doubts and gives him sapphires as a thank you. She decides it's better to leave and not bother him anymore. After rebirth, he has no internal barriers left. It does not cost him anything to take the elixir and achieve higher enlightenment. As soon as the ingredients are brought, he will immediately start preparing the elixir. Suddenly there was a loud knocking on his room. Opening the door, he saw how many ingredients were brought to him. He was surprised because he did not order so much. Suddenly the girl standing in front of them kicked the door. She said that now this is her room and let him go away. Lenli is not ready to give her room just like that. He has already agreed with the landlord and even left a deposit. He turns to his uncle and asks how he conducts his business in general. The uncle says that the girl has very rare and precious flowers. They are difficult to get and even more difficult to keep. He offers to give her room for 1 day. After seeing the ingredients, the main character asks, is she going to cook fig flowers? Looking at her, he starts laughing and asks if she is joking. The shaft of fire in this room can only be ignited up to the 1st level. At such a temperature, it is basically impossible to get what you need from these flowers. It will only turn them into nothing. The girl gets angry and assures that she has no other choice. She should at least try. The guy asks if she urgently needs to save someone. He knows one win-win way. She asks if he thinks that she will entrust him with the preparation of an elixir from these flowers. Lenli, I remind you that this is his room and his rules. To trust her or not is her choice. The girl agrees. If he can really help to get something useful from these flowers, then she will do everything on his terms. And if he fails, he will have to pay for it with his life. Without thinking for a long time, the protagonist opened the door and gave permission to enter. He does not let the others in. He orders to leave the ingredients here and go away. They were excited for her, but she turned around and said that everything was fine. The main character orders her to start sooner. He will help her along the way. In a past life, even alchemists specifically sought him out and asked him to use the lightning discharge to prepare elixirs. Without wasting time, she began to throw the ingredients into a large special dish. She lit the fire and controlled its flames with her ability. Of course, this girl is too much for this. But it is worth admitting that she is doing very well. Having opened the hot cauldron, she orders that the main character should now start this procedure. Hearing these words, the boy immediately took action. He just had to bend his fingers so that the discharge got into the dishes. Suddenly, the flour that was thrown over the vessel burned. She sees that something is wrong here and asks what he is doing anyway. Does he know at least with what difficulty she got these flowers? The main character tries to calm her down because she doesn't need them anymore. He offers to calm down and see what happens now with that flour. This is the most common substance obtained from this flour. Even with fire of level 7, it is not always possible to achieve such a result. The main character asks if she is surprised, and from this flour such a pure substance could not be otherwise. Having taken this thing, she wants to hear what he needs now for the fact that he helped her. Lenli said that he was soon going to the defense line, so he needed to prepare more of these things in reserve. Also, in the future he might find other things useful. He hopes that she could help him get some valuable ingredients. Suddenly, she takes out the alchemist token, with which he can take everything he needs in any store. The main character asks if she has been too generous. The girl smiled and said that he should help her a lot, and while they give, let him take. It seems that she was very tired. After exhaling heavily, she sat down on the bench. Lenny, I remind you that she wanted to prepare an elixir, because she seemed to urgently want to save someone. She was really tired, so she decides to rest first, especially after what she saw. She would like to observe his technique a little more. In this case, the main character offers to look more carefully. He starts work. Looking at the flames, he realizes that it looks pretty good. Turning to the girl, he asks her to help him with the ingredients. But she doesn't like it. Does he think that it will listen to his orders? But after looking at him, she decided that she would still help him. After taking the ingredients, he immediately pours them into a vessel. The girl gets angry and does not understand why he's not so careful with them. Lenley assures that this is his method of cooking. Does she have any dissatisfaction? The girl says that he not only wastes a lot of valuables with his method, but also despises the science of making elixirs. Hearing these words, the main character raised his hand and offered her to admire this moment. A moment later, he hits this dish with his hand, and a large charge of lightning hits it. After a moment, he receives after such a process what should help him. She is surprised how he managed to get the perfect thing with such carelessness. Her name is Idzin. Being the founder of the League of Alchemists, she has never met alchemists in her life, and a real master walks among the common people. She understands that she underestimated him. Now he can safely contact the League of Alchemists for any question, and now she needs to go. The main character understands that he will finally be able to achieve higher enlightenment. Without losing a moment, he begins this procedure. He is almost at the target, only one step left. The main character realizes that this thing is starting to activate. Continuing to accumulate energy, he manages to awaken a new level, predecessor. So urgently summoned him. Surely the foreman had already started to act. It scared him quite a lot. Suddenly the man said that soon people would come and look for the main character. Suddenly the man noticed that the main character has reached higher enlightenment. He cannot believe how this is possible and asks how old he is. After hearing this question, he calmly says that he will be 15 in a month. The man was pleasantly surprised and shocked at the same time. He understands that the boy is more talented than he thought. Probably some amendments will have to be made to his plans. He waves his fingers and asks the boy to come closer. The main character confidently approaches him and asks what further actions he should take. The predecessor continues to sit in a closed circle and orders him to move to its beginning. Lenley understands that they have a lot in common, but he still does not know his majestic name. The man says that he doesn't remember his name for a long time. People call him Amazing K. Hearing this name, the main character was surprised. He seems to remember a similar name. In his time, he got hold of half of the Thunderlord's cannon, and he learned the ancient technique of lightning control. Lenley is shocked. In his past life, it was thanks to this book that he became so powerful. He asked for permission to ask what specific part of the cannon he came across. The man said that he was studying the second part. The technique described there is not easy to understand, and given the absence of the first half of the training, it was very difficult. Otherwise, he would never have fallen into the hands of these two senior officers. The hero understands that he suffered a loss due to a lack in the second half and was reborn as a result. It would be great if he could restore the entire cannon. Kay asks if he will go with him to apprentice, and if he wants to learn an ancient technique. To a great surprise, the main character gets down on his knees and asks to be his mentor. The man throws the book and reminds that the foreman Dunn will soon send the hero to the border, so he needs to learn the second part of the cannon as soon as possible. Suddenly, the main character said that he knows how to free him. But I remind Kay that they will solve his problems as soon as he returns from abroad. Looking at the boy, the man asks if he feels insecure. Taking power into his hands, Lenley assures that now he is completely confident in himself. Arriving at the foreman, the hero asks whether the students still do not understand why Dunn summoned him so urgently. Foreman Dunn says that the master gave him one more chance. Master ordered some students to be sent to the border for training, and such an opportunity should be appreciated. Since the main character is new to them, he has the opportunity to learn how to fight against strangers. Since it is such a wonderful opportunity, he asks why his grandson is not coming too. He heard that his wounds have already healed. Dongshun shouts and explains that he can't because he has more important things to do here. At this moment, Xuanmo approaches and orders to listen to the words of the mentor. Suddenly, the mentor said that he should also go with the main character. Xuanmo, thank you for such an honor. At the border, he will use all his strength to glorify his name. Immediately after these words, the foreman and his grandson left them alone. Xuanmo angrily said that the protagonist should appreciate this great opportunity. He is older than him, so in the line of defense, the hero will have to obey him. And if he dares to argue with him for glory, then he will have big troubles. Lenley understands that he has nowhere to go and will have to obey them. The next day, events take place in the square in front of the Temple of the Black Sky. The main character and his leader are teleported to the square. Xuanmo orders not to embarrass him with everyone. If they have already come together, then let them be normal. But he did not have time to say these words when he saw that the main character was going about his business. He approaches two girls who were calling him from the crowd. At that moment, the manager approaches them and asks if they are new here, and he introduces himself to them and says that he is their servant. But they ignored him. The main character saw an outstanding person and greeted her. He understands that the Wolf Prince is also here. He probably wants to make sure that everything is going according to plan. Now he has to find out who Mother Fan is. She said that she heard about him. He was the best in the entrance exams, and she also heard that he does not listen to the mentor. Fan is standing in front of him. He heard that she was the last student of the previous Master K. Hearing these words, she confirmed that it was indeed true. Lenli says that it seems that the mentor was not good with insight. Hearing these words, she is indignant and does not understand how he dares to insult her mentor. He was really real on the exam. And as for other false rumors, the hero assures that these rumors are spread by those who are envious. He also says that something else says that she is not mediocre and naive. With such a character, it is easy to be deceived. After hearing his insulting words, Qianzhan says that this girl is the same Fan. Now the main character feels uncomfortable. The foreman asks her not to get into arguments with these teenagers, and it's time to leave. The main character looks at her and does not understand how he could speak so thoughtlessly. Xuanmo raises his token and tries to activate something unknown. After a while, a flying ship appears above them. The newcomers were surprised by this phenomenon. Having lowered the flying ship to the platform, he orders all the students to go on board. Having risen to the sky, they set off at high speed for the border. They go to the city of 100 Battles, which is on the very defense line. This city is far from the main foreign forces, and the level of training of the enemies is quite weak, so they should not worry too much. For the destruction of each stranger, they will receive 1 point. As a result, they will be able to exchange these points for rewards from their mentors. Conversations began between the students about this condition. Qianzhan looks at the calm face of the hero and does not understand. Is he not afraid? The main character said that at first it was scary, but now he has a powerful thing. In a past life, he was able to stay on the border for many years, possessing knowledge of only half of the canon. And now I possess the other half, and he has absolutely nothing to fear. A few hours later, the flying ship landed at the designated place, and the students began to disembark from it. Turning back, the main character saw that this place is very high. It is at this moment that other foremen and his assistants come out of the main entrance. It was the mentor of the Thousand Spirit Temple. He saw Xuan Kun, happy to see the new students who had stayed for training. The mentor greets him. At that moment, a man passes them with many monsters in a wagon. One of the students felt sick after what he saw. The mentor was surprised that these are the best students of the Temple of the Black Sky. Now he understands that their rating should decrease. At this moment, Fan activates his abilities and directs the flames towards the wall. The mentor barely had time to react to how quickly this attack moves towards the target. A moment later, a powerful explosion occurred on the walls of this temple. Fan stands up for the students. She understands that some students are sick, but this does not mean that they can be humiliated. Xuanmo reminds the students to stay out of the way and suggests not to fight over small things. She reminds him that in the past, the name of their temple worried him. Has he changed his values now? The teacher realized that they were not competent and left them. The boy began to apologize. He announces that there is a residence of their temple in this city. Today everyone needs to rest well and start training tomorrow. The main character sees that they are very nervous. Probably their aliens have already found themselves near the city. He will no longer allow them to destroy people. A dark night has come. Someone starts knocking on Fan's room. She goes to the door and tries to hear the answers of who is behind the door. Turns out it was the main character. She asks what he is doing here in the middle of the night. Lenlei wants to open her eyes. Xuan Kun is not who he says he is. Fan wants to hear the answers on what basis he despises him. Besides, she is on an equal footing with his mentor, so he should treat her with respect. Suddenly what she saw alarmed her greatly. The main character got the token. Fan can't figure out where he got it from. He informs her that Kay is still alive and recently took him as an apprentice, but she can't believe it. He tries to explain that the Elder Dong and the Master locked him in a dungeon at the foot of the North Peak. Fan shouts that it is impossible because the Master and the Mentor are noble people with a crystal-clear reputation. Lenli exhales heavily and realizes that people do not understand other people. She was lucky that in a past life he had mastered the technical mirroring of the truth. A window appeared in front of them, where it was clear that Kay was really in the dungeon. He also showed the true essence of their emperor. He suggests not to believe other people's things, but to believe your own eyes. Seeing these things, she was filled with great fear. She seems to understand that Xiao Kun is also like them. The main character asks if she noticed how nervous he was today. He clearly feels that someone can interfere with the plans of these people. Fan took them for noble men and did not expect such a betrayal. She angrily says that now he has nowhere to go. Fan understands that they need to figure out the truth together and reveal their true account to all people. The main character asks what will happen if the master's people find themselves among them. Taking a reckless step, they can frame their mentor. He suggests first pretending that they don't know anything yet, and tomorrow they will leave the city, and then they will act according to the situation. Realizing that she does not give in, the boy used the above enlightenment and ordered her to obey. The next day, the students left for training. They made their way through the windy, dry desert. Qianzhan is interested in what their future plan is. The hero informs that they need to bide their time in order to find out in advance where the squad is and destroy it. Suddenly, the mentors noticed that there were aliens in front of them. They ordered to prepare for defense. Before them were indeed aliens, waiting for people. They saw aliens in the form of spider monsters, but the mentor does not understand why there are so many of these monsters. He makes a very unexpected decision. Raising his hand, he orders everyone to retreat and go to the east. Suddenly, the main character says that they are just students. It will be risky to move away from the city, so he suggests that it is better to go west, so they will be closer to the city, and in case of something they will be able to call for help. The teacher said that they had just left the city. To go back at the first danger means to disgrace the temple of the black sky in front of everyone. Lei decides to play along in this situation. He shouts that they are obliged to glorify the good name of their temple, despite any difficulties. Looking at Fan, Windows knew that they should act on their plan. Without thinking for a long time, they set off at a fast run to the appointed place. The mentor was left standing in a stupor because of the unexpectedness. Instead of retreating, his disciples set out to fight these monsters. The main characters already activate their abilities and fly over strangers. A moment later, with lightning attacks, he destroys dozens of monsters. Fan comes to the rescue, and they see a new kind of monster in front of them. Seeing her, the main character said that she came very early. She took on most of the monsters. Other students offered to deal with the remaining ones, but they, continuing to attack them, did not understand why the monsters were so strong. A moment later, many students were receiving damage from these monsters. The student falls on the sand and gets into a dangerous situation. He asks for help. Suddenly, the monster approaches him and after a moment will deal him a fatal blow. The foreman does not understand what is happening. He suggests not to ask unnecessary questions and use this chance to escape. At this moment, the most important manager approaches them and orders them to wait. The main character says that he is responsible for the life of every student, but the foreman suspects that this boy has completely different intentions. He sees that the foreman is very angry. Did he start to suspect him? He understands that it won't work like that, and he needs to take them to their squad as soon as possible. After all, the strangers who are around them have come to life again. The elder took the students and said that there are fewer spiders in this place, so they need to break through the circle through it. The main character sees that the foreman is leading them to the east with great zeal. Probably their detachment is in that direction. Many students were already very tired and could not run for so long in the desert. The foreman understands that the detachment has only half a day to go, so he suggests a rest. Turning around, he saw that all the students simply fell on their faces on the ground. It seems that he is also getting very sick. He begins to interfere with consciousness. The main character's team confidently stands before them and understands that everything is ready. The hero is surprised how Lei is still standing. Leaning over to the foreman, he offers to do business. Suddenly, he takes out the thing and realizes that the foreman had a red crystal. The red crystal affects the heartbeat of these animals. With its help, you can control low species of aliens. Fan guesses that they belong to the Mo squad. Chenlei says that the matter cannot wait, so he is leaving right now. The girls have said that they will also go with him. I assure Fan that she is the oldest here, and therefore she must leave. Qianzhan assures that they have not spilled water since childhood. Lei, I remind her that she is also the protector of thunder. After thinking for a while, the main character says that she will go with him. They have been walking for so long, and still have not seen the shadow of the detachment. The girl said that she is very tired. Judging by the reaction of the red crystal, they need to go for about 6 more hours. He has an idea how to get there very quickly. The two of them are the keeper of the thunder. They need to awaken the hidden internal discharges. The girl is disappointed that this is why he chose her. Suddenly he starts apologizing in advance for his actions. She does not understand what he is thinking of doing and orders to calm down. Hugging her, the main character says that extra clothes will interfere with the union of their ranks. After a few seconds, a powerful lightning discharge occurs between them. In parallel, events are taking place in the desert, where the detachment is located. Bean smiled and said that everything seems to be ready for them. The only thing missing is the men that the foreman should bring, for the good dream of their ancestors will soon come true and the king will surely reward him. Suddenly he begins to soar towards the red moon. The wolves raise their heads to the moon and begin to howl. Making a joint discharge, the two of them found themselves right among these strangers. The main character wants to hear the answer to what purpose she was chasing him all this time. Lei said that the Thunderkeeper is always drawn to each other, and this is a normal phenomenon. The main character will think that he suspected her in vain. While she was getting dressed, a giant wolf appeared behind her. Turning around, she was very frightened. Lenli calms her down and informs her that the monster does not see her. The wolf came very close to her, so close that you could feel his breath. Lei excitedly asks if this information could not have been shared sooner. But not hearing an answer, she noticed that the main character was no longer near her. When the city of 100 battles was attacked last time, he was still nobody. But he had heard that the strangers were only able to break into the city after the main gate was blown up. Are these monsters going to feast on the students first and then break into the city? The aliens draw energy from the currents of the earth and store it here, and then this energy can be redirected to blast the city gates. Now he is trying to make them work for him. The girl asks where he got the stone with the power of thunder. Suddenly, a man in a mask appears above them and shouts that there are people here. Probably priests of foreigners can see more than those monsters. They understand that they need to run away. The monster emperor was very hungry. He started laughing and said that he had not eaten for a long time. The protagonist takes her in his arms and orders her to hold on tight. Big, powerful blue wings appear behind him. After a second, he flies into the air and heads in the other direction. But the monster emperor is also flying behind him. Lenli understands that this distance is enough. The Emperor of Monsters laughs and says that he will not be able to escape further. The guy says that this distance is enough to destroy him and others unnoticed by his people. The Monster Emperor begins to laugh. If he thinks he's enlightened, then he's invincible. He asks if he even knows what he's capable of. Lenli orders the girl to close her eyes and clear her head of all thoughts, and to trust him. After a moment, he begins to activate a new ability. The girl in his arms begins to disappear. Immediately after that, he takes out his bow with a lightning bolt, which he directs in the direction of this emperor. The emperor just looks at the boy and doesn't understand why he can't move. A huge arrow flies towards the emperor. He seems unable to do anything. He does not understand how this is possible. Is he still an ordinary person? Suddenly there was a very powerful explosion. The main character remains in the air. He says that this is only the beginning. He is far from the only alien whom he is going to destroy. At the same time, the foremen run to the tower to survey the area. Lowering their gaze to the ground, they were surprised by what they saw. Since last night, these monsters have started gathering here. Now there are about 100,000 of them. Did they just notice how they gathered in a large army, asks the emperor. The servant says that somehow they managed to sneak in unnoticed. But it is even more strange that they were able to make a surprise attack on them, but did not do it. The Black Sky Temple sent their disciples to them. At the same time they are visited by strangers, he thinks. Are these events connected? They had the opportunity to attack them suddenly, but they are still waiting for something. The foreman realizes that yesterday he suddenly lost consciousness. He wonders why he doesn't get the feeling that it is somehow related to the main character. He looks around and sees that everything looks as usual. Maybe he is screwing himself up in vain. The foreman understands that these are all trifles because their spore detachments will arrive. Qianzan mentions that they came up with a cunning plan yesterday. She wants to hear what happened yesterday when they stayed here. Smiling, the boy said that soon she would find out about everything herself. They continued to head east as a whole group. 15 minutes had passed since then. One of the students asks if they are moving in the right direction at all. How long they have been moving, and the city is still not visible. After a few tens of steps, they approached a place unknown to them. Sergeant I announced that they have already arrived. Some of them doubt this and ask what he's talking about. At this moment, the foreman traps these students. They cry out in fear and ask what it is. After they sacrifice them, he will let himself know when the squad can be launched. The werewolf wolf understands that everything is going according to plan. He can't wait to break into the human world and have his fill. The disciples were trapped behind a magical wall. They don't understand. Did their brother betray them? The wolf begins to laugh. The foreman did everything for him. He kneels and begins to glorify him. Fan remembers that in the temple this guy was apparently normal, but here he bows to the feet of strangers. It disgusts her to look at it. Xuan Tzu said that the male race did not have long left. He was simply more visible than all of them put together. The main character says that people have existed for millions of years. And will they disappear just like that? Even if they capture the city and break through, they will still survive. The werewolf laughs at them. They can say whatever they want, but soon they will still be their food. Immediately after that, he starts attacking this magic wall. At that moment, the people on the defense tower felt the ground under their feet begin to shake. They looked down and tried to understand what the monsters were doing. Looking down, they saw an activated ring and realized that it was Mo's squad. If they succeed, their city will come to an end. Suddenly, the leaders of the monsters began to show signs that the monsters had begun to attack. The wolf and the foreman begin to raise their hands and utter unknown words. Fan does not understand what they are doing. The main character informs that these two are having a sacrifice. The students do not understand what is happening, and the wolf shouts that these are their last moments of their lives. The student shouts that the elder is a pupil of the Temple of the Black Sky. He wants to deal with his brothers with such cruelty. He cannot believe that this is really happening. Hearing these words in his direction, it on the contrary made him laugh. He is still in honor of the Temple of the Black Sky. The master and the mentor asked him to help them deal with K. He would have pretended to be a pupil of the temple for as long as he wanted. And finally the time has come when you can be yourself. He declares that in front of them is the heir of the demonic order, the Wolf Prince. After learning about his real personality, students and other mentors could not believe everything. The protagonist informs that each of them can now be a witness. Upon returning to the Temple of the Black Sky, they will need explanations from the Master. The Wolf Prince informs that their squad will not leave either body or soul, and they, as ghosts, will also not be able to return to the temple. Looking at the prince, the protagonist said that they would check it out. His girlfriend approaches him and informs him that she is starting to suffocate. Lei is doubtful. She asks if the main character is sure that he did everything right yesterday. After looking at her, the boy again told her to trust him. Monsters began to approach the walls of the fortified city. The leaders see that they are launching a detachment. Do the heavens themselves want there to be no more people on the planet? One of them thinks that there is a spy in their city, and otherwise the aliens would have been able to establish the launch site right in front of their gates. The Master says that it is his fault, and if they can fight back this time, he will definitely find the traitor. Being the head of the city of 100 battles, he does not intend to leave the world with his city. Suddenly, the main character was still able to destroy the trap that was laid on them. Students do not understand how they ended up here and what is happening to the city. Lenli asks for patience, and as for the strangers, they will have to leave this world. The mentor asks if it has to be like that. Why do they use Black Sky Temple disciples to launch? Suddenly, the boy and the wolf were also in front of the main character. They were surprised that someone had carried them. The guy smiles. He said that they came for their end. But before that, he will show them a little show. Extending his hand, he activates an unknown ability. A purple magical glow appears above the city. A powerful ray appears from the sky and sweeps towards the walls of the city. Holding all the power in his hand, the main character successfully executes his plan. Lei sees what he is doing. She was very surprised because it is about 9 now without. The boy continues to control his ability and accumulates all the energy in his hand. Suddenly, a magic sword appears in his possession, with the help of which he will destroy all the demonic power. Swinging his sword, he immediately began to act. Dozens of monsters were immediately destroyed. The impact was so powerful that it stretched tens of meters. The wolf was very surprised. Even none of the students left this world. He shouts that it is impossible to launch their squad without a sacrifice. Lenli asks who said that there will be no sacrifice. 100 kilometers to the south of Vice, there is a whole camp of wolves. Hearing these words, the wolf was very angry. He began to attack the main character, but he immediately reacts and points his magic sword at him. Holding this amazing weapon in his hands, he looked like the last hero of this world. Fan was pleasantly surprised, as were all the students. They began to praise him. The monsters saw this power, but they were not afraid, but on the contrary began to attack them. The main character's team was in front of the city entrance. All the monsters started running towards them. They see that monsters are coming and do not understand what to do. 100,000 monsters are waiting for their end. There is no other option but to start destroying them. He takes his hand sword and again prepares for successful attacks. It spins around its point and forms a magical field. Only with the help of this light he manages to destroy monsters. A powerful magical dragon layer formed around them. Fresh gunpowder has appeared. 100,000 monsters have been destroyed, and this cannot be allowed to perish. He pulls out a stone above him and gathers all their energy. A moment later, he successfully managed to do so. The giant gates opening access to the city were opened. The owners of this city are grateful to him for saving them from a certain end. After a few minutes, she finds herself in the hall of the head of the city. They praise the main character, and if it weren't for him, they would be afraid to imagine what would happen to them. Lei says with a smile that Chen Lei has done them an invaluable service, whether they plan to give him a higher military rank. Smiling, the boss thanks her for reminding him. He asks the main character to come to him. He is the head of the city of 100 battles, officially assigning him the title of Hero of the First Degree. This title allows you to choose any entry as a personal name. Saluting him, the main character thanks him for such a favor. Suddenly, the senior leader asks if Mr. Yuchi thinks that giving such a high rank to such a young man is too generous. Because Qianzhan intervenes in their conversation, she does not understand what is incompatible here. Even if you count the points for each destroyed monster, he is still given 100,000 points, which is enough to get the rank of first-class hero. Yuchi agrees with her. In fact, the main character deserves a higher title, but he does not have such rights. He will write a detailed report about the heroism of the boy, and help him to get a higher rank. Hearing this, the boy was very happy. Fan sees that the Elder Master is very worried from envy, the achievement of the disciple of the Black Sky Temple. She asks if he remembers what he said that day. She takes those words back. She asks where were the disciples of their temple all this time. They should downgrade their temple. He heard these humiliating words which he spoke at the first meeting with them. The protagonist calms her down. This time she decides to forgive this man. At this moment, events are happening in their city. They came to the dungeon where Kay is still. Looking at them, he asked what wind brought them here. Suddenly, they start beating him. One of them asks how he dared to deceive them. They demand that he take out a real token. Last time he gave them a fake one. The man asks, did it take them 15 years to figure that out, and starts laughing out loud. The teacher asks if he really thinks that they don't have enough spirit to send him to another world. Another day came. The disciples who were on a journey came to the temple of the black sky. Qianzan orders the trader to behave calmly and obey their orders. The main character took out his token and informs Kay that he has prisoners now, so he needs to hurry. As they all already know, today's master and mentor Dong conspired with Xiao Tzu, who overthrew the past master. Now there is danger, and he goes to save the others. Suddenly all the students said that they would go with him. Now they would be completely at his disposal. Seeing this reaction, the main character realized that he was doing everything right. They set out on a mountain path to the North Peak, but the emperor's grandson appears in front of him. He asks if he had the audacity to return, and he wonders how he is still alive. Seeing him, the boy ordered Dunshun to disappear immediately from his sight. Dongshun sets conditions. If he wants to get to the northern peak, he must first ask permission from his weapon. But after a few seconds, this guy was imprisoned and immobilized. Lei suggests that they be put together for the time being, and on the holiday they will be sacrificed to the heavens. At that moment, they looked up and saw a large layer of rock coming towards them. Without thinking for a long time, Lin Li stops this attack with one wave of his hand. Having destroyed this stone, he saw a familiar silhouette in front of him. It was this boy's grandfather. His eyes were full of anger and hatred. He takes his grandson and throws him in front of him. He reminds him that he and the master sold their souls to strangers, and still don't know what they did all these years of unjust rule. Dun said that he is the trusted head of the Northern Peak, and will not allow his name to be dishonored. Behind the main character are students of their temple, who were in the city during the battles, and can confirm everything he just said. Hearing these words, the foreman said that it was a lie, and the main character simply bewitched them. The girl offers to stop arguing with him. Probably the owners have not yet informed him about the latest news. Lin Lei gets a reward for being a hero of the first degree. Will he now say again that he still charmed these people? The foreman was surprised to see this medal. The hero reports that he personally destroyed 100,000 monsters. Dun understood that he could not avoid punishment from the owners, but now the main thing is to win time for the master, because if they get Kay's real token, they will not be able to atone for their guilt. He smiles. Since they already know everything, there is only one way out. He will destroy this mountain road so that they will all fall straight into hell, and then there will be no one to help them. The hero shouts that if he wants to fight him, he should not involve others in this situation. He approaches his grandson and begins to threaten. In return, he offers to meet in a one-on-one battle. If he wins, he can take his grandson, and if he refuses, he will destroy him right now. Lei asks him not to do this because this man has long passed the limit of the ideal, and the main character has only recently achieved enlightenment. Dun laughs loudly. He sees that the hero has just achieved enlightenment, and he is already bragging about it. He agrees, in which case he will show him how to use real energy and destroy him. The girls try to stop him, because this man has a completely different level of energy, and he cannot match him. Having chosen them, he offers to calm down and not to worry. He offers to change the location. Here they can affect other innocent viewers. In order not to harm the civilians, they move to another place. The man has already reached the ideal, so he will allow him to be hit by one blow from the main character. Suddenly, the guy doesn't think long and immediately pounces on him. The man is surprised that he is so fast. After a moment, his hand reaches the foreman's face. It seems that it did not harm him at all, smiling. He asks if this is all he is capable of. Although he is faster than he thought, he still has little strength. Spectators watch the fight. They understand that this is a special method of combating the protection of the Matrix. The longer he hits one point, the harder he charges towards it. The divorced main character continues to fight until suddenly cracks appear on this barrier. And after a second, he breaks through this barrier and delivers a real blow to the enemy. He does not have time to react and falls to the ground. He cannot understand how it is possible, why he was able to break through his matrix. Approaching the man, Lin Li orders him to stand up immediately. Dun was filled with revenge. He promises to destroy him now, but not having time to do it, the hero neutralizes it again. Falling to his knees, the foreman does not believe that this is happening. Spectators begin to cheer for the main character and tease his opponent. Dunshin turns to his grandfather. He does not understand what he's doing. Let him gather his strength and finally put an end to this fight. After these words, the foreman was really filled with negative energy. He is now ready to destroy everyone in his path. Lei sees that he is trying to release pent-up energy. He approaches the hero. He is sure that from such a close distance he will not be able to avoid a blow. But at this moment, the protagonist again successfully neutralizes his attacks and attacks even harder. Because he betrayed the past master and sold himself to strangers, the boy asks what kind of ending he would like to see. Dun begins to cry. He does not want to leave this world, and assures that he was misunderstood. The master confused him. He is almost completely unconscious. After seeing this picture, the main character says that he doesn't even have enough bed to wash away all the sins he has committed. Suddenly, a small magical weapon appears in the foreman's hands. Leia yells for him to be careful. He has a peacock in his hand, and there might be poisonous poison at the end of it. After a moment, the sergeant directs this weapon in the direction of the main character's leg. And once again he failed. Lenli successfully reacts and delivers another powerful blow. Immediately after that, he directs a powerful lightning bolt from the sky at him. Now he has finally left this world. He turned around and saw how they were praising him. With a smile, he asks to stop. Now they need to save Master K. After successfully destroying the first enemy, the students and the main character go to help K. But at this moment, K himself successfully copes with the opponents and, destroying the wall, delivers a powerful blow. The man asks, did he think that he could handle someone like him alone? A second later, the main character and his former student run up to him. He always considered the enemy a strong and close student, but I don't understand why he betrayed him. The foreman said that everything was going to the point that the aliens would win over the people, and he was just saving himself. He was ready to sacrifice his own students for the sake of his life, and honor and love. The foreman understands that he is now on the losing side, but the human race is safe, and they will go to the bottom, one by one. I promise Kay that I won't let him leave this world just like that. He will have to experience everything that he lived through because of his fault. Immediately after, he swings and kicks him to the top of the mountain. After a powerful explosion, the sergeant punched a hole in this peak. Kneeling down, he did not notice that behind him were the evil eyes of hungry monsters. After a moment, he saw that he was really surrounded by monsters, and after that he began to scream loudly and beg for help. The man understands that the two of them are his students for a reason. They managed to stop the disaster. It's good that they helped him destroy the chains in time. Otherwise, it would have been difficult. The main character this time worked hard for glory, and did them a great favor. Suddenly, he became interested in what happened to the foreman Dunn. Without thinking for a long time, the boy said that he had destroyed him. These words made the man laugh. He did not doubt his strength. The disciples asked the master to lead the temple of the black sky again. Seeing what everyone is asking, he still agreed to become their master. After these words, they and the main character landed on a new square. Lenli asks if their inauguration ceremony will come soon and why he brought him here. Kay assures that he only managed to break the chains thanks to the second part of the Thunderlord's cannon. DY assures that in fact, the other part that he gave him also helped him a lot. Without it, he would not have been able to stop this disaster. Despite this, the master is ready to give him a gift. In this stormy lake, the energy of thousand-year-old spirits pulses, and it is also fed by the power of the 9 heavens, and now it belongs to the main character. Lenli says that the master has just freed himself from the chains. He needs this lake very much to heal his wounds. Kay assures that only the Keeper of the Thunder can fully use the power of the cargo lake. Besides, the main character has a more important mission. He is sure that the hero must have heard about the gates of heaven. They open once every 20 years, and it can only be entered by people younger than 20 who have at least achieved higher enlightenment. In the past life, he became perfect too late. That's why he was never able to get there. The heavenly gates were created by the sages of the ancient world for future generations. Countless treasures are kept there. She can give luck and a happy fate. Enemies rebelled against him because the aliens wanted to get his token to enter Heaven's Gate. He wouldn't allow it. But now these two are alive, and King is still with the Master. Kay assures that it is better for the hero to go there with someone else. In addition to happiness, you can also encounter dangers there. He needs to increase his own power in an accelerated mode, and in this case, there is no better assistant than the Storm Lake. Entering this magical lake, he immediately began to fill his tongue with energy. At this time, the hero shouts for the master to train during this time because they need him strong. No one has bathed in this lake for a long time. The master understands that it must have missed people. Courage. Lenli feels great pain, but he understands that he must endure. He was not reborn just like that. He has not yet destroyed all the strangers, and he cannot leave this world. The master sees that something has gone wrong. The lake must be so hard if only there was someone else who could share this test with him. Who but where to get another Guardian of Thunder? At this point, Lei is sitting in his room and begins to share his energy as well. The main character was getting worse and worse. The master understands that he will not last so long, but at this moment he sees someone else near the boy. He sees that some unknown girl has appeared under the main character. Without realizing it, Lei opened her eyes and does not understand where she got to. Raising her face to the mountain, she saw the main character above her. The master asks her what she is doing to someone and what she wants to do with his student. Turning around, she realized that it is the master, and asks why he threw him alone into the cargo lake. The master realizes that it looks like he was wrong, relying on the fact that the Guardian of Thunder will be able to interrupt it all. Taking the crystal with her, she decided to also try this activation to help the hero. Lifting Crystal up, she tries to join this process, but suddenly changes her mind and simply stopped this process. She asks the hero how he can be so reckless. It is very dangerous to get into the lake alone. She understands that he wants to reach a new level of his ability, but if he is no longer there, it will be the end of them. Kay anxiously runs to help him. Lenli regained consciousness. Lei saw that everything was fine and decided to go about her business. A few hours later, the ceremony for the new master of the Black Sky Temple began. Kay, sitting on the throne, is now determined by the new master of this temple. Their master saw the white light again thanks to the main character. He wants to prepare him for the future, becoming a mentor. It remains for the boy to break through the boundaries of the ideal. And you can start thinking about becoming the head of some peak, Fan said. After these words, that she will now bring new prisoners. The master saw these traitors and shouts that the two of them sold themselves to strangers and betrayed their brothers. Dongxun and Xiao Tzu are kneeling in front of him. Dongxun started to make excuses, but he can't get away with it anymore, and the master will order him. Xiao Kun will be punished by lightning, and he will give him 360 lightning strikes, and this event will happen right away. Today they will start a general inspection and calculate all the spies. The Temple of the Black Sky will soon shine with new colors. A second later, a pillar appeared near the traitor, where lightning always struck. Finally he got what he deserved. Chunzhan reminds that now the main character is in great honor before the master. Therefore we need to talk about Qinyan. But suddenly a voice is heard behind him saying that the master will not help them. Kay replies that he is his best student, and he will not hide behind the power of a powerful master. Qingyang is the main character's family, and he must take care of them himself. The main character doubted. The master asks not to worry. Did he forget that now he is a hero of the first degree? Does he mean that if he's a hero of the first level, he will be able to choose it as a personal name? Since the master cannot perform it from the temple, he is given initial starting capital. The master sharpened this ring to save the two traitors. The main character understands that he seems to be rich now. He also gives them a cloud transport, so that they can get to Qinyan quickly and with the wind. Seeing these gifts, the main character bowed to him and was very grateful. The girl is happy that they are finally returning home. Lenli understands that now the most important thing is that they can solve all the problems of their city. The guard standing at the entrance to the city saw something strange happening in the sky. They are surprised and do not understand, do they want to land in their place. The protagonist answers that his family is here. This girl is with him from the neighboring house, but the guard doesn't care who they are, to whom everyone has to pay 10 coins to enter this city. At this moment, Chunjin decides to jump alongside this guard. She asks who they are. She has lived in this city for so many years, and there has never been any fee for entering the city. The guard answers that this rule was established by their head, and they are obliged to pay money now. The main character does not understand what kind of new chapter this is. 4 big houses have always ruled here. The officer informs that their leader is the son of the great Ninov family. He possesses polar technique at a high level. The girl curiously asks what kind of polar technique it is. Suddenly, the main character shouts for her to go up to him as soon as possible. Suddenly, the two quickly disappeared from the officer's sight. He was confused because they flew into the city without payment. They see a fire burning at the site of Chen's house. Flying over them, they saw some strange ritual taking place there. The man shouts that he will not be able to hold the protective matrix for a long time, and it is necessary to put out the fire as soon as possible. At this moment, Qianzhan's mother and father run up to them. They were very confused for some reason. He suggests Brother Chen to hold the protective matrix and let him rest a little. The mother is crying, the house has already fallen, and he still needs to lead a detachment of the remaining warriors. He better get busy recuperating. At this moment, the stranger lies on the bench and attacks the barrier shield. It was the same head that was recently chosen. He attacks the main character's house because they don't follow his orders. The chief orders the soldiers to give more fire and destroy the house. The father understands that there are a lot of comas. Even if he possessed polar technique at an average level, he would not last long. Another father understands that he cannot stand by while this matrix destroys him. The head also got up from his bed. He understands that it is time to destroy the last nail in the coffin of this family. Immediately after that, he twists his hands and activates the negative energy. Unwinding and filling it with power, he easily destroys the barrier shield. The father cannot stand this power and loses control over himself. They see that already the second house will be completely destroyed. At this moment, someone approaches this statue and continues to activate it. Their family home was protected by an even larger barrier shield. This was the main character, Como. When they saw him, they were very surprised. After what he saw, Qianzhan asks his parents what they are doing here and what is wrong with their houses. The rest of the population also saw that the main character had returned. They were infinitely happy. The head girl says that the main character is a disciple of the Temple of the Black Sky. She suggests that it is better to retreat. The head says that the hero went to the temple only a year ago. He is sure that he does not have such strength yet. Lenli is also interested in what happened to them here at all, how their city turned into something like this. But at this moment, they were focused on this effect. They were amazed at the power of the main character. Last month, a head was sent to the city. He turned out to be Ningxia. His character is like a beast. He took and needed his sister to marry him and become his wife. When he heard these words, he was filled with great rage. He still wanted their youngest daughter to become a servant in his house. The houses of Zhao and Sun had already submitted to him, and they began to resist, so he came with a squad to attack them. Mother says that their house has already been destroyed. Qianzhan is also filled with great rage and desire for revenge. The protagonist is ordered to quickly take Qinjan and return to the Temple of the Black Sky, because they won't be able to help here. But the protagonist says that he has no intention of leaving them. He will definitely restore order here. He appeals to all the villagers. They have already been cornered. If her house finally collapses, not all of them will become homeless, so he needs each of them to believe in him. Suddenly, they immediately agreed to his leadership. They will hold the defense and will not surrender. The hero asks not to worry. This time he will not have to face the enemy without weapons. Swords and armor of the second level, as well as an elixir. It is intended to strengthen energy. With its help, they will be able to quickly restore their energy. They were surprised where he got so many things. Besides that, these things were of very good quality. In fact, all the weapons belonged to the traders before, and the elixir remained from the time of the meeting with the girl and from the League of Alchemists. The Temple of the Black Sky prepares him to become a mentor, and all this was given to him by their master. One of the villagers says that the matter is bad. The head has sent his men for a warrior against whom the protective matrix will no longer help. Time does not wait any longer. He offers to go out to meet the enemy. Suddenly, Qianzhan also wants to join them and help in the battle. The chief is annoyed. He sent people for soldiers a long time ago. And why haven't these weapons been brought yet? At this time, he saw how the main gate of the house began to slowly open. After a moment, he saw the protagonist and his men standing before him. The two of them fell off the bench from such a glow. Seeing their power, the head shouted that they should finally destroy them already. A moment later, the battle began. The two sides launched an attack. They immediately felt what a weapon means. One hit, and the enemy is gone immediately. The girl also used this weapon effectively. Many warriors were destroyed on her way. The head does not understand how they dared to do this to him. This time he also activates the same ability. The black energy is like a black hole gaining momentum. Suddenly he sees a fast object flying in front of him. With his reaction, he manages to dodge this attack. And it creeped him out that he managed to dodge. He asks who dared to attack him from the back. The main character stands confidently and says that he still has a lot of such blades, but it is not clear whether he will be able to dodge them next time. Seeing the main character, sweat appeared on his face. Suddenly the enemy decided to retreat and return to their residence. But at this moment, Qianzhan is trying to catch up with them and avenge his relatives. Lenlei sees her desire but orders them to leave. She does not understand this because they defeated them with such difficulty. It would be worth it to finish off those who are running away. With a confident look, he says that the head simply does not yet know that his residence no longer belongs to him. The chapter was very nervous. The main character annoyed him a lot. At this moment, the animal of the main character holds a token in its teeth and approaches the portal. Suddenly, high-speed magic arrows were directed at the head. Unexpectedly, he falls into the main character's trap. Qianzhan was pleasantly surprised. Did the main character send his snowman with his head buried and set him in a large matrix in the yard? Snowball stopped responding to his when. Ever since he got into the dungeon, and after his baptism in the stormy lake, their spiritual connection refused. She asks if the head just leaves this world. Won't it be too easy for him, after all he did to their houses? The main character won't let him just leave this world. He will have to experience the end of each of their villagers. The head was disappointed. He understands that everything was fine in his life. Will he just leave this world like that? Suddenly the matrix disappeared. He hoped it was just an illusion. But he felt every arrow attacking him, and it was quite real. Turning around, he saw a new attack approaching him. Each time he was attacked and restored, so he experienced this horror again and again. Suddenly, a maid approaches him and asks what is wrong with him and why he is on the floor. She does not understand what happened to him because recently he was normal. At that moment, they saw how Snowball appeared again on the roof. The maid asks who he is. The main character appeared in front of him. His pet pokes him with a token. The head sees that it was him. He shouts that he did all this. Qianzhan says that he is wrong. Chenlei didn't hurt him. Most likely he was just laughing at him. Hearing these words, the man was very angry. He wanted to get rid of them as soon as possible. But at that moment he was surrounded by a magical cage of coma. He only managed to stretch his hand through it. From now on, this city, as well as the entire vicinity of his fortress, belongs to the main character. And all protective obstacles in his yard are controlled only by him. Only that he, just for him, felt the pain that their peasants were experiencing. And now the time has come to pay with life for life. Suddenly they were moved to someplace. This smoke is a secret weapon of the demonic order. The head used this technique. From today, he will feel as if 1,000 ants will attack him. The mentor of the demonic order is sitting in front of him. He asks not to worry. He will not leave empty-handed from the revenge of the demonic order either. Your of the 4 house heads of the city betrayed them, and came under the rule of Ningxia, besides that they helped him in the attack of demons. They ask if they will admit their guilt. Suddenly they began to make excuses, as if they were cornered and had no choice. Qianzhan tells them not to say anything more to whom they behaved like cowards, without honor and dignity. The main character thinks that if they sincerely talk, then you can give them another chance. After hearing this, the girl was confused. Shanyan has suffered great losses, and now his ally will not stand by him for anything. he will still want to take revenge. They are in dire need of people now, so it is necessary to allow them to atone for their guilt with concessions. If the main character orders the Alava to get out of here, he will have no choice and no room for maneuver. Around the city live ordinary people who have little or no military strength, and their boys will not always be able to protect them all. If they decide to attack them, they will suffer great losses. The man asks what he proposes to do. The hero assures that they need to deliver the first strike themselves. They will hide in the mountains in advance, and when they will pass through a gorge, which they will throw down large stones, they will find themselves behind the party in a trap. The chief begins to laugh. Does he think that he is the most intelligent? Because if he takes all the strong warriors with him, and the old people and children remain in the city, then it will be very easy for him to capture the city. The man is sure that if the main character expected to trick them with such childish traps, he is clearly overestimating his strength. Hearing these words, their king said that they quickly learned bad manners. The head will remember their service after the capture of the city. All the possessions of the houses will pass to them. The men bowed before them. At this time, the main character and his team are flying on a flying ship. They see that their enemies are already approaching. He is interested in who is walking ahead on a horse next to the head. The father tells him to know him. He is one of the leaders of the demonic order, the Wolf King Jing. He was in charge of the whole operation that night. They see that this man is with the demonic order. 6 months ago, precisely because of that night attack on the city, which left many people dead, they were forced to flee and seek shelter in the Temple of the Black Sky. He will never believe that this guy was not involved in this. The man says that he will say more. This attack this night was his plan. He wanted to show their top that they are not capable of protecting the city, and for him to get the main position. Hearing these words, the hero called out that he would pay for it today. He orders that his men began to throw stones. The Wolf King begins to laugh, because he has already caught his warriors, and they are in an ambush. Moreover, he has sent the main forces around, and they are already on their way to the city. When they heard these words, the hero team was greatly shocked. They see that next to them are these people who were considered traitors. Today, the King of Wolves promises to destroy their family, and thus take responsibility for his nephew. Hearing that this boy is his tribe, the main character did not expect this. The Wolf Prince looks at him with an angry look and asks if he remembers him. Lenli asks if he is talking about that gentle man who pretended to be strong, but in reality turned out to be a pie with nothing. After hearing the insulting words, the Wolf King became very furious. The heroes report that he will not be able to take revenge today, but there is also good news. He will visit him soon. Suddenly his servant informs that they are trapped. They were ambushed, young warriors are waiting for them in the city in full combat readiness, and someone else installed a storm dragon matrix. Their army is completely defeated. Hearing about the Thunder Dragon, the king could not believe that this is possible. This matrix becomes available only at the 9th stage of enlightenment, and who possesses such abilities? Lenli says that he is trying to find on the edge of the world what is in front of his nose. He established it, although his self-cultivation has not gone that far, and he is not yet at the 9th stage. With the right effort, he had no problem catching warriors like them. The Wolf King's servant shouts that the warriors they ambushed have all disappeared. It was a trick to draw eyes. The main character exclaims that Sun and Zhao did a great job, so they can come back sooner, and count that he helped them to get revenge for taking their relatives away from them. One of them says that it is a pleasure to cooperate with him. The other man tries to resolve the situation and says that his partner is making everything up. The head understands that there are traitors among them. They came to their side and set a trap for them. Immediately after that, he begins to attack them. The girl says that it is necessary for these traitors of Koma. Now they are left without friends at all. The man asks how the protagonist found out that they will betray them again. The hero explains that people who betrayed their relatives will definitely betray others again. The King of Wolves admits that the hero is smart, but he should not act that his people will get out of here alive today. In order to order the soldiers, the main character will not even have to disturb his people. He will handle everything himself. He says that wolves have a better sense of smell than sows, but even though he is called the Wolf King, it seems that he has completely lost his sense of smell. After these words, the king immediately smelled the oil that surrounded them. Taking his bow, the main character shot her next to them. After a moment, they were surrounded by a hot fire which formed a wall. They do not understand what to do, but the Wolf King does not seem to be afraid of the usual weight of fire. He begins to whistle loudly, and his warriors with wings appear above him. Landing near them, they quickly saddled these flying wolves. The head grabs his leg and asks him not to throw him, but the King of Wolves pushed him and said that now he did not need him. Having saddled the wolf, he leaves this gorge between the mountains. The main character understands that they want to get out of the environment by air. The girl turns to her parents and uncle. They urgently need to detain them. Having jumped from the merging ship, they saddled the flying boards. With high speed, they quickly caught up with the enemies and began to attack them. At this moment, more unexpected arrows fly towards them. The main character shouts to destroy the rider. You need to hit the flying monsters. And to catch a criminal, you need to act in a completely different way. But when he aimed his arrow at the king's wolf, he did not see in him the most important enemy. At this moment, his body is attacked by a red snake. He seems to have big problems. The king of wolves says that the hero was so close. The hero's team realize that he has a problem. They go to help him. But after a moment, they were surrounded by several soldiers. The girl shouts that they should not stand in their way. The Wolf King slowly approaches Lenli and asks if he is hurt. But he asks not to worry because this blow will not destroy him. He changed his mind, after all he had done. It would be better if he left him alive for the time being and slowly beat him down, making his life difficult. He will make him his servant and make him destroy his own family with his own hands, and then he will be satisfied. At this moment, he activates many more snakes that quickly fly towards the boy. Having gained speed, the main character manages to evade these dangerous attacks. The Wolf King continues to attack and orders him not to run away. Lenli is exhausted. There is darkness in his eyes. His strength is suddenly spent. Is this the end of him? But he understands that it is impossible to allow their family to disappear from memory. It is impossible to allow a repetition of the tragedy of the past life. If he leaves this world, they will leave it together. He begins to attack the king. Moments later, he takes it with both hands. The Wolf King's legendary sword falls from his hands. The Wolf King continues to fall with the hero. He asks if he thinks that he can be destroyed so easily. He begins to whistle and calls for the help of his faithful wolf. The main character closed his eyes and tries to create a connection with his animal. At that moment, his animal appears before him and approaches his hand. Suddenly, his animal starts biting lightly on his finger. It seems that the boy has new powers and his energy is overflowing. Continuing to fall, the king does not understand what is happening. After the baptism in the stormy lake of the main characters, he believed that his body would not be able to absorb the power of the lake, as he was not yet sufficiently enlightened. Right now, the heavens are on his side and the king's time is up. Immediately after that, he sends a powerful attack at the king. He does not understand why, after such heavy blows, the main character is still able to launch thunder. This boy is caught by his father. The main character informs that everything is fine with him. But at this moment, the king's wolf also picks him up and flies in the opposite direction. He will think that this time he underestimated him, but let him remember that the demonic order is behind him, and he will not survive their next meeting. The guy says that he better look back before saying something cool. The king of wolves tries against the wind to see what is behind him. Turning around, he sees how the girl destroyed his wolf. Immediately after that, he loses control and falls to earth from a great distance. The main character's team confidently looks at how it happens. Thanks to the main character's plan, they got rid of the head and reported to the wolves. Lenli, you speak. And they are only here for a while and cannot stay for long. They need to return to the Black Sky Temple today. The father heard these words and was surprised that it happened so quickly. The girl reminds that the gates of heaven will open soon, and they need to prepare everything in advance. The boy says that the wolf packs will soon return. There is no doubt, but the danger of internal problems has now increased, and there is no need to relax. Previously, this city was small, and now in addition to this city, 5 more cities began to be in their possession, and enemies will always attack such a territory. You won't be able to go far on one of the defensive matrices, but if several schools unite, they will easily overcome them. Therefore, they should establish their own personal temple. Hearing these words, his relatives were surprised by such an unexpected scenario. It is to establish a temple, recruit students, strengthen the city's defenses. After that, they will be able to control their piece of land. The father understands that this is really the right decision, but he still has some questions. Today he realized that only if you are strong, no one can oppress you, so he is in favor of creating a temple. If they have made up their minds, there are no objections to the uncle either. If the idea of a temple originated in the city, then let it be called the Sinyan Temple. Qianzhan informs them that they urgently need to return. Their mentor is calling them. The events take place in the main hall of the Temple of the Black Sky. The master asks the hero how things are going on their land. Saluting him, the main character announced that everything had already fallen into place. Kay is glad that they are now at peace with their home. The gates of heaven open in 10 days, by which time all 7 main temples must gather. He chose 10 of them to represent their temple. They should prepare well in the coming days. Hearing these orders of the main characters, he immediately accepted them. Suddenly, one of them steps forward and asks the master not to worry. In front of the best heroes of their country, he demonstrates the ideal of a disciple of the Black Sky Temple. There was a brief pause in the competition between this student and the main character. When they went to the square, they saw how the population was looking at some kind of dragon chariot. A flying ship is of course cool, but when you dream of a dragon, it looks much more powerful. People around were amazed by this view. Lenli asks Fan who these students are, why he hasn't seen them before. She answers that Lin is the son of the Northern Sun Peak mentor, and the 2 girls with him are Chubi and Luan, their temple. A year ago, a missionary from the Holy Land saw them with the best qualities, and he took them with him to improve their skills, and they returned only yesterday. Zanjan was displeased. She doesn't understand what's going on in this dream. On the way to Heaven's Gate, their leader is the main character. She doesn't understand from what gender this guy started talking about himself. In addition, once they went to improve themselves on the Holy Land, then they ceased to be disciples of their temple, and how can they now be its representatives? Fan, let me know that although their temple is considered to be one of the best teams, they cannot go against the Holy Land who, even considering that they left the Black Sky Temple, they will have to accept their presence in their ranks. The main character realized that these students work for their competitors. After a few seconds, these students approach them. When you dream of a dragon, you are one of the treasures of the Holy Land. Probably he is highly valued there since he was able to earn it in just 1 year. He answers that the earth was always very warm to the students of the Temple of the Black Sky, to whom when their master found out that he was coming back, he gave him a dream with a dragon for a while. He tried to glorify their temple. He saw the main character, although he was far away all this time, but he had already heard about his heroism. One of them said that she had heard that a disciple had brought the head of the temple to the clean water and defeated the strangers. She did not expect that it would be such a young guy. The other one did not understand what was in the mind of this master. He appointed some guy with their leader. Probably after so many years spent in the dungeon, he had lost the ability to think clearly. She asks if she is not right. Their student is only the first week in the temple. And what is he like? In all skills and personal qualities, he is worse than Lin. Hearing these words, they began to laugh. The girl does not understand what is funny. The main character laughs at the fact that they are outsiders, and at the same time squeezed into the number of representatives of the temple. They should be thankful for the opportunity to be with them, but instead they show dissatisfaction. Hearing these words, they became very angry. They did not understand why they were considered outsiders. Lin turns to the main character. The three of them were in this temple of someone's birth, and he crossed the line in his things, whom he advises to apologize as soon as possible, or else he will act differently. Each country has its own laws, and each temple has its own rules, to whom they went to improve on the Holy Land, and therefore became its disciples. Is he trying to serve their temple in the Holy Land? Lin decided not to argue with him any further. The master had appointed him as their leader, so he would agree to it. But if he already spoke about the order of the temple, then according to custom, the strongest student should be the leader. So he challenges him to a battle. You speak, Fan, everyone knows how strong he is, but should he start a battle with a younger student from a small quarrel, it will lose his authority in the eyes of others. At this moment, others started cheering for the main character. Lin knows that he is the most talented disciple of the Black Sky Temple, and Lentley should have intercepted his glory. He only has to accept the challenge, and he will put him in his place. Suddenly the main character said that he is giving up on this. Without expecting this, the guy falls to the ground. He is already their leader by right. Why should he risk accepting him as a vice committee? He will have to offer something of equal value instead. Standing up, Lin asks what he means. The main character answers that if he wins, he will refuse to be the leader, and if he loses, then when he dreams of a dragon, he will become his. After hearing these conditions, the girls were unhappy because this dragon and the chariot were very expensive. After thinking about the conditions for a while, Lin nevertheless agreed to them. He agrees because he knows he will win this battle and he has nothing to lose. He shouts that there is no time to talk and it is time to start the fight. After a moment, he starts his special technique and attacks the main character. His speed was truly incredible, but the main character could still fend off his attacks. Lei can see that the opponent's blows are very strange. Red light is emitted from him. And what kind of technique is this? Fan replies that they do not teach such techniques in their temple. He learned it on the Holy Land, and she has never met such a technique either. Another girl answers that this technique is called the Bright Moon, who needs to have a special gift to learn it to the full extent, and who ordinary people can only use a third of it. In their opinion, soon the main character will not be able to continue resisting. If they do not want him to be damaged, then let them convince him to ask for mercy. Hearing these words, they were quite confused, but hoped for the victory of the main character. Lin shouts that today he is silent to respect his elders, and he will finally understand where his true place is. Lenli assures that Yaka's daughter who got married is like spilled water, that he can teach him. The main character angered his opponent even more. He stretched out his hand and uses a more powerful technique. Fan asks him to stop and not dare to use forbidden techniques. At this moment, the protagonist quickly activates his special technique. Extending his hand, he was easily able to resist the attack of his opponent. And even with this attack, he was able to deal a lot of damage to him. Lin falls to the ground without expecting it. Immediately after that, his acquaintances run up to him. They don't try to understand if everything is fine with him. Lin is trying with all his might to get up and understand what just happened. She angrily asks why the main character used such a powerful technique. Such fights are understood as an exchange of experience and nothing more. As always, the guilty person complains first. Everyone saw that the opponent was the first to start using prohibited techniques. At first, the main character's techniques seemed weak to the opponent. so he specifically began to hit harder to see his crown technique. The protagonist says that fortunately, Lin did not teach them a more powerful technique on the Holy Land. Otherwise, he would not have been able to defend himself against the answer. Having heard about the eye energy, the opponent asks, did he bathe in the stormy lake? Fan is confirmed. He saved them from all the traitors and freed the master from the dungeon. As a reward for this, the master gave him the opportunity to bathe in the lake. She warns them all that there will be no more challenges. The master announced that in the future he will make the main character a mentor. His position is already higher than ordinary students, so it is better to show respect. Hearing that they are ordinary students, they were very offended. Now that the dream with the dragon belongs to the main character, they gladly approach to study its features. Returning to his adversary, Lenli thanked him for his great. Approaching it, they saw that there is a lot of space. They really want to test the dragon faster. Suddenly, Lin, after being angry, took something and started eating it. He jumps up into the sky and asks, who said he lost? Because the match is not over yet. While in the air, he activates his powerful techniques again. The main character sees this attack and quickly pushes the hit zones of his friends. A moment later, a small explosion occurred at this point. They were lying on the ground and were very excited for the consequences in the life of the main character. Lin continues to quickly attack and add his forces towards his opponent. He promises that this time he will definitely destroy whoever it is to him for being offended by that land. But suddenly he saw a bright glow in the thick smoke. And after a moment, this light broke through the thick smoke and headed towards him. He falls to the ground again from the main character's attack. The smoke dissipates and the silhouette of the main character can be seen from it. His friends approach him and ask if he is all right. Fan asks Lin to stop and not dare to use forbidden techniques. Qianzhan asks when he managed to train such a precious sword, why he didn't say anything. He informs that this sword appeared in his possession very recently. The girl says that extraneous objects cannot be used in a fair fight. It is considered unfair. The main character asks if using mancha is unfair, while she mentions taking a secret substance that increases energy. Hearing this information, they were surprised. At this moment, the main character destroys other such things. Others realized that the enemy had used an amplifier. No wonder its power became so destructive at the moment. Other students appeared around them and began to condemn them. Now they see what this guy really is. Is that all he was taught on the Holy Land? Why are all these words? And he feels very unpleasant sensations. Accepting the amplifier during the fair duel is forbidden by the rules of their temple. She cannot turn a blind eye to it, and he will have to explain his behavior to the master. His girlfriend says that they cannot be allowed to make a scandal out of this. If the master withdraws their candidacies in anger, then they will have big problems. He approaches Fan and admits his guilt, to whom he gladly gives to the main character. When dreaming of a dragon, as compensation, there is no need to disturb the master of trifles. Qianzhan shouts that they have won this pulse long ago. How can he give away what he no longer has? Smiling, the hero says that their temple really has a good relationship with the Holy Land, so he suggests not to spoil it. Have Lin say out loud 3 times that he surrenders and the main character has won. And that's when they'll end the situation. But he sees that the enemy does not want. He never forces anyone to do something against their will just like that. His girlfriend approaches him and asks him to think about them and the consequences. Without thinking for a long time, he nevertheless began to shout these phrases 3 times. The students who were nearby started laughing at him. Now he finally puts his reputation to rest. Smiling, Lenli thanks him for the duel. After that, he happily approaches the chariot with the dragon, and I invite everyone who wanted to ride to get inside. After a moment, they quickly learn how to operate this chariot and fly to test it. Remaining on the ground, they exclaim that they have not yet completed the coma. But the girl offers, before revenge, first you need to get to the gates of heaven. Some time has passed. They have been waiting for this for so long, and finally this moment has come. It is a great opportunity to learn new things and make friends. Lei suggests watching each other during this event. After a short speech, the participants got on their chariots and flew to the designated path. The other participants saw how smoothly the dragon moved across the sky. At that moment, the owners of the chariot were traveling in an ordinary ship. Lin can't stand this and shouts that they make him very nervous. After several hours, they approach the entrance of the heavenly gate. They are surprised that there are so many people there. They thought that they would arrive before everyone else, but there were even earlier birds. The main character passes by and realizes that they can't wait to get there. At that moment, someone started attacking their chariot, and they tried to understand what was happening. It turns out that the son of the head of the Temple of the Purple Sun is flying in front of them. He asks if they don't see that he's flying here. They were angry. If the dream wasn't like that, they would immediately turn around. They demand that he quickly apologize. But it doesn't matter to him. He can buy 10 such chariots. If something happened to his ship, they wouldn't be able to pay for it in their lifetime. Lenli sees that their ship really looks very expensive, an outfit an ordinary student would be able to afford. He became interested in who this guy is. The student sees that the main character is quite conscious. His name is Haklin. He is the son of the head of the Temple of the Purple Sun. Now he knows who is standing in front of him. Now it is clear where he got such an expensive ship and such manners. Suddenly, he shouts that she looks beautiful but in fact is useless and starts to attack. A moment later, he hits this student's ship, causing him to fall to the ground. At that moment, someone catches him with a chain and asks him to be more careful. The main character looks at all this and tries to understand who it is on such a big ship. It was the head of the Temple of the Purple Sun. It seems to be the father of this disciple. Hacklin assures his father that the main character crashed his ship. His father was very angry. He could not believe that someone dared to harm his son. Immediately after these words, there was a magical attack from their ship. Suddenly, their master appears in front of the protagonist's chariot. The head of the Purple Temple cannot believe that the master is interceding for them. Kay exclaims that it is obvious to everyone that it was his son who first started harming someone. Will he stoop to such a level? At this moment, two more unknown masters fly over them. One of them was on a tiger who was the master of the top of the beasts. His name was Sean. The other was the head of the 100 Hairpins Monastery, Longwan. He was here today for the opening of the Heaven Gate. Maybe instead of arguing, he suggests that it is better to find out which of them is more worthy. Hearing these words, the master smiled because he is only for this. But the head of the Purple Temple offers to postpone their conflict for now. Everything will become clear after the gate is opened. After a few minutes, they found themselves at the Heaven's Gate Square. The master met with the mentor of 1,000 spirits. A pleasant conversation began between them. The teacher saw that the main character was here. He heard about his heroism and congratulated the master with such a good student. At this moment, other dignitaries slowly approach them. They say that if it wasn't for the main character, Kay would have left this life because of the dungeons. He was the head of the Red Cloud Tower and the head of the Holy Dragon Order. The foreman understands that it is better not to touch the past. At this moment, the head of the Purple Temple approaches them. His point of view is that it is not easy to move. It is necessary to shout about it to avoid problems. This does not only apply to the master. All the mentors of the Black Sky Temple have sold their souls to outsiders. Doesn't this cast a shadow on all 7 temples? The master answers that there is nowhere to throw at his temple in life. All temples are heroes standing behind each other. And where was he when they were fighting on the front lines in the last war? He says at that time they had a holiday in the main hall, and they were choosing a bride for him. He also turns to the other two. They like to keep their noses in the wind because they then stopped the movement of their troops and waited for news about who would win. Hearing these words, all these people were very angry with him. The head of the Purple Temple orders the master not to stick his nose out of his business. The chapter tries to calm their conflict because they set a bad example for the younger generation. The main character does not understand that they have moved in. They did not have enough time to say hello and are ready to destroy each other. Lei laughs and says that they are just old like children. Suddenly behind them they hear a voice calling this girl. Turning around they saw a tall guy whom he thought he recognized at first, but realized that it was really her. Jan takes her by the face and says that they have not seen each other for many years, and she has already grown up. The main character stands in front of him and asks what he is doing. How dare he touch her? Jan indignantly asks who they are. He and this Lei have been engaged for a long time, and what does this have to do with them? Hearing this, the main character was even more annoyed. Lei asks not to listen to him. They met only once in childhood. She practically does not know him. And then he simply said in a rage that he will marry her when he grows up. She said that she did not promise him anything. These words almost made him faint. After all, he came with the most serious intentions. He waited so many years for her to grow up to marry her. And why is she now disappearing? The main character continues to advocate for her. How can he prove that they are really married? Jan says that a verbal promise is also valid. And although she didn't answer anything then, but silence is a sign of consent. In the near future, he will ask his father to organize their wedding. Hearing these words, she was shocked by such a decision. Zanjan intercedes for her. She orders to calm down her anger, because Lei has been married to another person for a long time. Jan folded his hands and wants to find out and look at this guy, and it's even better to stay away from him in the future, otherwise he will hurt him. Suddenly she holds the protagonist and says that he is her husband. If you touch him, it means that he will declare war on the Temple of the Black Sky. She shows that this is his head and he can do whatever he wants with her if he dares. Lenli speaks quietly. If she wants to play a prank on someone, then it is not necessary to risk his head. Yang turned to the other girl and asked if these words were true. She was forced to play along with this situation. The main character understands that he does not like it at all. Ian does not understand how she dared to do such a thing when he was not there. They hear their mentors ordering all the students and masters to gather in the square. Yang pushed the boy. He had nothing to prove now, but he would still talk to him by the ship. He says that everything happens to people in the gates of heaven. Since he dared to take his bride away from him, he should not hope to get out of this place alive. The long-awaited time has come. Everyone is ordered to prepare for the opening of the heavenly gates. Raising their hands to whom they held in it a crystal that should activate this gate. One by one, they threw up these crystals and threw them into the stone pillar. Suddenly, it began to collapse and a great powerful portal was formed from it. Seeing this spectacle, all those waiting were pleasantly surprised. They are the best representatives of the great temples, and the opportunity to visit the heavenly gates will be the main luck in life for them. They will have only 10 days for this, and the gates will close. They must definitely return on time, and under no circumstances be late. And now all the students will enter the gate one by one. The man sees that they can't wait to show themselves and glorify their temples. Without thinking for a long time, the students who were called to this began to jump into this portal. The master informs that the heavenly gates are full of wonderful things, but it is still very dangerous there, and in no case should they lose their attention. Looking at the master, they told him not to worry. They would be as careful as possible. Having become the government, they took a confident step into this portal. Approaching the portal, the protagonist felt a great deal of fear. A second later, he appeared in a new world and saw new amazing animals there. Looking around, he noticed even more fabulousness. Suddenly, he realizes that he does not see his friends near him and tries to find them. That portal probably works according to the principle of chaotic teleport. Everyone who entered it can teleport anywhere. He hopes that everything is in order with them now. Suddenly, he heard some screams behind him. He hears someone shouting and fighting for some flowers. Turning around, he saw how these disciples were starting to fight for the flowers. They were ready to destroy each other for them. Do they really turn out to be students of one of the great Roma who only managed to get into this world as they immediately manifested their essence? And all this because of some ordinary flowers. Of course, in the ordinary world, finding one such flower can be counted as luck. If these guys are ready to give their lives for such a thing, then they have no understanding of what miracles are really worth paying attention to. He sees that some kind of energy appears in the distance. More valuable treasures are clearly guarded there, and he needs to explore this place. At this point, another more influential participant intervenes in this battle. He orders the flower to remain. In terms of its value, they do not even reach the 4th level. No more time can be lost. You must fly faster. You cannot let others get to the main treasures faster than them. They heard his words and quickly began to carry out his orders. A moment later, they saddled their ships and flew to their destination. But failure awaited them. There was a protective barrier above them that prevented them from going above a specific height. Due to this collision, they lost control and fell to the ground. They do not understand what is happening. There is probably a protective dome installed here, and you cannot just take it and fly through it. At that moment, someone falls to the ground near them and leaves a large footprint. They began to cough and suffocate from the smoke. They do not understand what is happening here. Raising their eyes, they saw that it was the main character moving quickly with the help of his dragon. Seeing him, the student was very angry. Some time passed, and the main character managed to catch fish that he cooked on the fire. He ate very deliciously. This lake is a real miracle. After eating only one carp, he managed to restore all his lost spiritual energy. And before this, he needed a whole table. He understands that it is a pity that his stomach is not trained to consume more food. Suddenly, he had an idea. He realized that he had prepared well for this. Without thinking long, he jumps into the water and tries to carry out his plan. He sees that there are a lot of fish here. He plans to collect more of them and then give them to other participants. Spreading his net, he tries to catch more fish. He ties the net tightly and manages to catch a very large fish. After a second, the fish began to move quickly and swim to the bottom. The guy holds tightly to the net and tells her not to even try to run away from him. They continued to swim like this, and after a few seconds, the fish rests on the bottom of the lake. After a second, the fish just lay down on the ground. The main character thought that it was just tired. Approaching her, he felt that something was wrong here. Suddenly, he saw that some unknown giant appeared in front of him. He gets to his feet and tries to understand what kind of animal it is. Suddenly, this monster becomes, and it was obvious that it is a water dragon. Lenley understood this. The rarest dragon and beast, he seems to be 9th level. If you manage to try even a piece of his meat, you can skip 10 years of improvement. Probably all the local fish ended up here for a reason. They were attracted by the energetic power of the dragon. The fish feed on its energy, which is why it itself becomes so energetic. Suddenly, the water dragon began to behave more aggressively. The main character tries to dodge his blows. The dragon's tail approaches him. Without thinking, he takes out his swords and touches the dragon's tail. This trick allows him to jump out of the water a great distance. This dragon has amazingly strong scales. Its gold is the least solid type of treasure, but with any attack, he could not even scratch this monster with this sword. He sees that his length is really amazing. His actions tell that he is coming. After a moment, the dragon jumped out of the water and tries to eat the main character. Lenley leans away from his mouth and at this moment tries to do one trick. The main character starts spinning quickly and peels off the scales with his sword. After that, he bounces off it and jumps next to the lake. He didn't expect the dragon to be such a tough nut. He wanted to try a bit of his meat, and now he himself needs to try not to become his breakfast. The dragon becomes very aggressive and jumps out of its lake at the main character. Lenley tries to calm himself down, because the dragon's body cannot be completely invincible, as it must have weak points. Suddenly, he notices his rock. The water dragon's horns are the place of the largest concentration of energy, as well as the source of his power. Any poison can be made into its own antidote, which means that his weakness is also in the area of his strength. Having understood this, he will try to stick to this plan. Jumping up from the ground, the main character flies on his head. Taking his 2 swords, he prepares to attack. A second later, he is right next to the crystal on the dragon's head, using his swords to try to extract it. From such pain, the dragon begins to rush in different directions. The boy continues to stick to his plan and continues to keep control of the crystal. After a few seconds, he still manages to destroy this crystal. He reacts quickly and flies away. A gigantic water dragon fell unconscious to the ground. It is not for nothing that he says that such a dragon is considered a miracle of the 9th level. Energy of amazing strength comes out of his horns. His entry into this world can be considered already successful. At that moment, his animal appears from his ring and jumps to the ground. He does not understand what these actions are and why the animal so abruptly decided to do it. Without thinking for a long time, he goes to look for his pet. He is sure that he ran along this path. Suddenly he hears a familiar voice calling him. Turning around, he saw that his girlfriend was behind him. She is glad that she finally met him. When she opened her eyes, she did not see anyone around and was very scared. The main character reports that the portal teleports people in a chaotic order, and they all ended up in different places. She thought that he must be very worried about Qianzhan, but he did not understand what this was for. Lei smiled awkwardly and reported that she did not meet anyone on her way. She asks how he ended up here. Is he also looking for the Storm Lotus? Hearing this name, he was very shocked. Is she talking about this Thunder Lotus, which, according to legends, is the main treasure for them? Possessing it, you can even resist the natural elements. Many have lost their whole lives in search of it, but never found it. But it seemed to her that she caught its aroma. She followed with this scent. The 2 of them are the Keeper of Thunder, and she is sure that he is here for that reason as well. In general, the main character is not here because of this reason, although they are of the same essence with her, but her intelligence is much stronger than his. What is the case in the cargo lake worth? What is hidden in it? Suddenly he heard sounds and raised his head to see his pet on the rock. Without thinking for a long time, he starts running and stops him. After a few seconds, he managed to find it. The main character was glad that he succeeded. But when he came closer, what he saw surprised him very much. He saw in front of him the lake and the thing they had just been discussing. A real Thunder Lotus appeared in front of them. Shock did not stop on their faces. Now he understands. The animal was born from lightning discharge. His intelligence will be stronger than theirs. Did he bring them here on purpose? For that he will definitely feed him delicious food at home. But the main character replies that if she heard him, then let him be completely hers. Lei refuses because his pet found this flower. At this moment, someone takes this flower from this place. Their enemy appeared in front of them. If they could not share, then he decided to take it away. The main character shouts that they were the first to find this treasure, and he must return it. Only the Guardians of Thunder can reveal its true potential. It will not bring him any benefit. Yang agrees to give it only if she agrees to marry him, and then this flower will be a gift for her. But since she turned him away before that, one word will not be enough. It will be necessary to secure her consent right in this world. If you give birth to a child in such a place, he will definitely turn out to be a strong person. Hearing these words, she shouted that she would not agree to this for anything. Lentley says that this flower is unique. There is no other like it in the world. If it should become a wedding gift, then he should give it. At this moment, he activates his abilities and directs them at the boy standing on the tree. Immediately after that, there was a powerful explosion that left a strong light. But what he saw he could not believe. Yang A survived his attack and not even a hair fell from him. Having found himself in this world, he immediately found a red lake that matched his nature. And the result did not make him wait. The main character will be the first on whom he will test his new powers. He wants to see how he can respond to his new fighting techniques. They continued to look at the tree, but at that moment Yang was already behind them. The main character notices him. He is surprised that this guy has such high speed. Lei calls out to the main characters to be more careful in battle. Reacting, he pulls out his swords and blocks the blow. The main character understands that all students of the Red Tower are very treacherous. Ian informs them that they are known for using unexpected secret techniques, and if he talks about it, he will show him a few today. He takes out another weapon and wants to show him a new power. Jumping over him, he unwinds the rope to strike, but the main character manages to repel these attacks, even if he uses a lot of his energy. The girl shouts for him to be more careful because this rope is soaked with poison. Turning around, he saw how everything around him began to melt from this rope. Ian asks the girl if she really likes this guy. He wants to see how he will like her after he splits her up. He is really amazingly fast and impenetrable. Also taking into account that he has just hardened in the Red Lake, the main character will not be enough for a long battle. He needs to think about how to deal with him quickly. He examines his opponent and tries to find his weak point. He notices that his clothes are all wet and his hair is dry, which means that he did not dive into the lake with his head. Suddenly, the protagonist's swords were caught by the opponent's rope. Ian laughs at the fact that the hero has no more weapons. He asks how he plans to fight next. The protagonist shouted that he needs to think about how to further defend himself. The enemy understands that he does not have time to make the next attack, and after a moment the main character's hand is on his face. Taking it under control, he throws it to the ground. Lei approaches him and asks if they are all right. She sees how this guy is lying and not moving, despite the fact that he usually does not punch opponents in the face. In his case, he could not resist. After that, he removes the ring from it. The main character gets the flower, but Lei offers to divide it in half to make it fair. The main character agreed to this without thinking long and divided the flower into 2 parts. Immediately after this action, a magical explosive field formed around them. The explosion was quite powerful and was noticeable several kilometers away. After this blow, they closed their eyes and nose so that no harm would come to them. Opening his eyes, the main character was confused. The thunderflower disappeared. The girl says that he looked at this place. Something else appeared instead. She immediately understood that these were the seeds of this flower. It is in the seed that all the most valuable energy is contained. That is why it is valued more than the flower itself. It is the most valuable treasure that the Guardian of Thunder can find. In his past life, the main character was just a little short of a decisive victory. He was on the verge of success, and everything was decided at the last moment. But now that he has this cargo lotus seed, nothing can harm him. Lei sees Komo's eyes light up at the sight of this ware. She thinks it's better to leave it to him, he agrees, but if he needs her, let him say so. After these words, she smiled sweetly and agreed. At that moment, he turned and started shouting at his enemy. Lei, I remind you that this guy is still a representative of one of the 7 great temples. She thinks it's better to feel sorry for him. If she says so, then this time he will spare his life. But if he continues the bailiff tour, he will remind him of what his fist smells like. Without thinking for a long time, they left him in the pit and went on. Ian understands that the hero not only took away his girlfriend, but also caused him a loss of pieces. He does not need their pity. They will definitely pay for today's humiliation. Mounted on his chariot, the swift dragon began to set out for the next place of importance. Magical snakeskin, crystallized steel, he sees that this boy has managed to find a lot. Taking out one of these things, he gave it to Lee. Suddenly she asks if he is reliable for her. After all, he said that now he is her husband. He heard that it was the hero who started laughing and says that he said this only to solve this situation. Lei understood that it was unnecessary and began to laugh loudly. She says that it was a prank. Then she realized that it was a bad joke and it was better to hold back. Driving further, they heard a strange sound. It looked like some showdown and they decided to go see it. At that moment, there was a fight between 4 people near the waterfall. One of them fell to the ground and was asked where he had gone. The participant asks not to destroy him, but the guy ignored it and did it his way. They looked at all this and understood that it was very serious. They were also interested in which temple they were from. They looked very young. Lei said that she knew 2 of them. One is called Kai, the other Nain. They are both disciples from the Divine Land. This is abroad for them. They are as strangers as the students from the Holy Land. She thinks they too ended up here, taking someone else's place. It's not surprising. It seems that they don't play by the rules there at all. But he wonders why they destroyed the others. Suddenly, one of them noticed that someone was following them. He ordered them to get out of the bushes. The main character does not understand whether they have been noticed or he thinks so. Suddenly, from those bushes, someone quickly moved towards them, leaving behind a trail of fire. After a moment, they saw a girl appear in front of them. Lei saw and recognized that it was Setsura Luan. She asks why they didn't share 100 needles with the students of the monastery, and why they destroyed them. One of them smiles and says that they didn't do anything with them. They just occupied the place they liked. Suddenly, she quickly flew into the air towards the waterfall. Reaching out her hand, she began to interact with it. After a moment, she was able to open the reservoir and saw that behind it was the Azure Palace. The main character also saw it, the same place where the Azure Emperor was perfecting. According to legend, this emperor perfected himself in one secret cave in which he found various elixirs and treasures. But people still could not find this court. It turns out that it was hidden in the heavenly gates. In this courtyard is the entire legacy of the Azure Emperor, and with the help of which you can complete your cultivation in a matter of seconds. Were these disciples worthy of it? She asks how the disciple of the Order of the Holy Dragon ended up with them, and why they did not destroy him. The boy said that their order was always friendly with the Divine Land. They helped them maintain their influence within the country. The more so he found this house. He immediately reported his find to these Zoo brothers. He doesn't need much. Just look and it will be enough. Luan shouts that the Holy and Divine Land has maintained good relations with the 7 great temples for many years. Everyone is equal in this world. Due to the large amount of treasures in this house, they risked the reputation of their lands. Because of them, this friendship could come to an end. The main character did not expect to hear this from her. She speaks firmly but truthfully. The guy asks her not to put their lands in the same row as the most important thing for them is glory. For the sake of the result, they are ready to do whatever it takes. Suddenly, they gathered and began to attack her. Having witnessed these events, she herself signed the final sentence. A large, powerful beam approaches her. But this moment, she activates her ability and asks, They decided to destroy her. A battle began between them where light opposed fire. At this moment, the main characters and his partner watch this fight from the bushes. He sees that her fighting skills are much better than Lin was able to show. But why is she bragging about him so much? Lei replies that the boys don't understand this. At this moment, another participant comes to help the brothers. He takes out his staff and activates the necromancer's power. The skeletons that came out of this weapon began to bite the opponent. She does not understand what it is and orders him to take them away from her. The boy laughs and orders to attack now until she can concentrate her thoughts. Without thinking long, they began to fulfill his request. The battle started again between them. It became much more difficult for the girl to fight against them. Lei was confused and worried about her. She decided to run to help her. But the main character stopped her and told her to wait. First, they will wait until she shows all her power. At first, she wanted to present them before the judgment of the 7 great temples. But if they are so brutal, they cannot and will not live to be judged. Extending her finger, she began to activate a more powerful technique. Immediately after that, a huge ray of fire fell from the sky to the ground. The skeletons that attacked her immediately began to disappear. A firebird appeared behind the girl. It looked very powerful. It turns out that she tamed a fiery phoenix. But when the hero found out about it, Lenli noticed a small red mark on her chile, and realized that it was the mark of some magical monster. So he guessed that she had recently tamed some animal. Phoenix rose above his enemies and began to attack with hot flames. Fiery blows began to knock the boys off their feet. Lun says that it is too late to be afraid. The fiery phoenix will turn them into ashes. Suddenly she began to feel something strange. She realized that her vitality began to leave her. After a moment, she lost consciousness and began to fall rapidly to the ground. The guy sees that this is an excellent chance and throws his weapon directly at the target. At this moment, Phoenix stands on the defensive and protects her from blows. Another member was furious and was ready to destroy him at any cost. The girl continued to fall to the ground. She hoped that her beast would help her. But after a few seconds, she still fell to the ground. The guy laughs and asks, did she think that his skeletons were some kind of tricks? They had a poison embedded in them that paralyzes her body for 6 hours. The other boy started praising him for being so smart. They will not forgive her humiliation. Let her not even hope to leave this world easily. The other member asks him to give her to him. He has a couple of methods to make her life difficult. The guy says that she once had an angry character and a stern look, and even before he was afraid to talk to her. She had just been so strong she wasn't afraid to call him abusive words, and now she's lying here like a puddle. She cannot do anything about it. She is very angry and regrets that she did not destroy him first. And he didn't like it. He got angry and decided it was time to act. She closed her eyes and was getting ready to be attacked. But at this moment, the main character comes to the rescue. He quickly neutralizes the obstacle. Seeing them, the girl could not understand where they came from. And what worried her the most was why they decided to help her. The main character asks not to think too much. They just don't like to watch from the side how 3 guys attack one. All of them from the same temple. They have to look after each other until they leave their past differences aside. Lei offers to drink an antidote. The boys stood up and asked who they are. How dare they interfere in the affairs of the representative of the divine land? After hearing these words, the main character announced that he was from the Temple of the Black Sky. Realizing that they are all from the same temple, it became an even greater motivation for them to destroy them all. After a few seconds, the attacks began. The protagonist orders them to run away. At that moment, a powerful blow was coming at them, and they were forced to jump to the side. Lei continued to run. She reports that time is needed before the counterattack happens. Suddenly, another participant appeared in front of them. He laughs at the fact that they think they are safe. Their ancestors said that girls and good soldiers should not live to see gray hair. It will be very sad if they lose the war with time. Immediately after that, he decided to fix their image forever. A powerful blow with a green glow began to fly towards the girls. But at this moment, she activates the cargo shield and defends herself from all the impact. At the same time, the main character continues to fight another enemy. The enemy understands that the hero is quite good at restraining his pressure. He probably learned something in the temple, but it will not be enough for a long time. A moment later, he directs an air dragon at the main character. This dragon was getting closer and closer. Opening its mouth, it is trying to eat the hero. At this moment, the protagonist sees a strange little dragon appear from his sword. And immediately after that, his hand became much more powerful and turned into a dragon. He understands that these are the horns of that water dragon, as it is known that all their magical power lies in the horns. Do they react like this to the presence of a white dragon? He decides to see how he will cope with the Thunderkeeper, who will be assisted by a water dragon. Hitting the ground, he shouts, summoning a dragon. At this time, a pond appeared around him where a white dragon appeared. Without thinking for a long time, the main character immediately starts his new combat technique. The water dragon and the white dragon came face to face. A battle began between them, each of them having quite large forces. Lenli controlled his dragon and cheered for his victory. The protagonist's dragon began to win this battle and successfully attacked the enemy. The boy continued to control and add power to his dragon, but it seems he is losing. A few seconds later, he saw his dragon completely destroyed. The protagonist looked at his surprised face and understood that this skill was very useful. The opponent falls to his knees and says that the water dragon is on a completely different level. The hero is wrong that he only took advantage of this situation. Who has no second level. It all depends on how to manage his dragon. It's a pity that the white dragon got such a short-sighted master. The boy shouts that he will have to answer for the humiliation of the student of the divine land. Approaching him, he swung his arms and shouted that he would destroy him to pieces. But when he approaches him, he immediately receives a heavy blow. The hero calmly reacts to this attack. You need to know your place and calm down in time so you can live a long life more. This time he turns towards the forest and remembers that there was another participant here, and probably his acquaintances are in danger. At the same time, the girls are really fighting against this contestant. Lei looks around and does not understand why the main character does not come to them. The participant asks to leave his hopes. The main character is not at all a rival of his brother, in whom he is sure that until this moment, there is nothing left of their friend. Therefore, he does not waste time and shouts that the same fate awaits them. Lee continues to put up a defense, but she realizes that she won't be able to keep it up for long. The enemy watched their defeat. He laughs and says that he did not calculate the strength. At that moment, something strange began in their epicenter. The flames engulfed this enemy's attack and took control of it. Lun regained her strength. She thanks Lei for standing up for herself. Now it's her turn. The enemy likes to mercilessly destroy something beautiful. He continues to attack them. Lun took her to a tree and asked her to rest here. She usually doesn't stoop to his arguments with these types of people, but he managed to really piss her off. She is filled with new strength and, taking out her sword, prepares for a new fight. She successfully destroys the enemy's attacks and gets closer to him with every second. A moment later, she finally manages to break through his defenses, and at the same moment she delivers the finishing blow to him. Suddenly, what she saw confused her a lot. The enemy begins to laugh and says that it is all useless. He creates a new phase of his power and shows off. He has long since trained his steel body. His skin cannot be pierced, and with this sword she has no chance at all. She is not ready to give up and decides to see what he is capable of. She gets into a new pose and prepares to activate a new technique. After a moment, a space appeared on his body that questioned the enemy's new energy. He does not understand how it is possible for someone whose body is indestructible and there are no nuances. At that moment, he quickly takes out the amplifier and consumes it. Lei notices this and orders to be more careful, because he took some kind of booster, and now he can cool his body. At that moment, the fire quickly began to turn into cold ice. Immediately after that, he destroys this armor, and with new powers is ready for new battles. But he decides to retreat. He says that from this day on, he declares them enemies of the Divine Land. He swears that in the future he will destroy all participants from the Temple of the Black Sky and the Holy Land. Suddenly he hears a voice that seems very familiar to him. When he returned, he saw the main character flying over him, who was ready to destroy him right now so that there would be no problems later. The main characters again used the same technique as on the previous participants. Touching his face caused cracks to form on his opponent. His body began to crack just like brittle ice. At that moment, there was a powerful explosion in the air and pieces of ice fell to the ground. The main character fell to the ground and his friends started running to him. Lei congratulates him on his victory. He easily destroyed him. Lun was outraged because her opponent, when he felt that he was losing, immediately used an amplifier. Lenli doesn't remember anything that made her indignant when another participant accepted the settlement. She says that in his case, it was part of the art of fighting. The main character says that she is just a master of double standards, always thinking of how to protect this guy. Lei tries to calm them down. She suggests that it is better to return to the Azure House before someone else finds it. In order not to waste time, he starts whistling so that the dragon flies to them. Not even a second passed when a flying dragon quickly rushed to them. They began to enter this carriage and looked back to see how offended Loon was. Lei offers to go with them, but Vona refuses and says that she will walk. Lei assures that her body has not yet been completely cleansed of Tom's poison. Moreover, she lost a lot of strength during the fight, so it is better to protect herself and go with them. At this time, the main character takes everything into his own hands and takes her in his arms so that she finally sits down while dreaming. In the end, this dragon chariot was lost to him by that very boy. Arriving at the place, they saw that the phoenix left this world today. It is a very rare bird, and it is a pity. Lun said that phoenixes do not leave the flower. He just lost his shell and he can still be resurrected. Since he left this world because of her, she is ready to give half of her energy to his resurrection. Filled with energy, she began this procedure. Debris after the phoenix began to collect in the energy layer. Immediately after that, she spread her arms and this layer flew into the sky. A huge pillar of fire appeared in front of them, and the restoration process began. After a few seconds, the new body of Phoenix began to be seen. When he appeared, he immediately began to touch his master. Seeing this, Lei started laughing for some reason, which made the girl surprised. She stood again in front of the waterfall where the Azure House is located. When she got closer, she realized that there was a magical barrier in front of the house. "It would be strange if he wasn't there," said the hero. "There are so many treasures in this house, and it is understood that the Azure Emperor installed a barrier to the entrance. She wonders how to overcome him. Did he have ideas?" The main character confidently approaches this house where there is a high barrier in front of him. He begins to unlock this barrier using personal techniques. The first sign appears in front of them, which warns about the unlocking of this protection. And after a moment, the huge doors of this house were completely open. The essence of the Laser Emperor belongs to the element of water, which opposes the element of fire. On the other hand, the elements of water and thunder can be called relatives, which is why the main character so easily overcame this barrier. Lenli is sure that her pride will not allow her to enter the door that was opened for her, and they will take advantage of this moment and go to the house first. Hearing these words made her very angry. Despite her character, she's not enough to stay here because of this principle. Upon entering, they saw many original treasures. Even any brick from which the walls are made here will cost a lot in the real world. She turns around and asks them to go for a walk for now, and she will go get ready in the meantime. Suddenly, she jumps up and runs down the corridor. Lei asks the hero if they won't take anything. The main character says that no one leaves good things in a prominent place. They were very lucky to find the legendary Azure House. First, you need to take a good look at it. Suddenly, he asked if she could hear the sound of water. Without thinking for a long time, they ran to this sound to see what was happening there. After a few meters, they came to a room where there was a stone door. Bending his ear, the main character was sure that there was definitely the sound of gurgling water. Having collected his thoughts, he still decides to try to open this big door. Opening them, they saw a very large room in the center of which was a lake. Upon entering, they immediately felt a huge rush of good energy. They don't think for a long time if they started to come closer to the center of the room. When they got closer, they saw a water body that was crystal clear. Lei saw that it was very beautiful and immediately began to touch the pond. But the main character had some strange feelings. He felt danger. Suddenly, Voda began to behave strangely. The hero orders her to be more careful. Suddenly, the water catches the boy and tries to pull him inside. The water continues to drag him deeper and deeper. He loses control and goes downstream. Suddenly, he opens his eyes and sees that he has appeared in some strange place. Is he really at the bottom of this lake? He's surprised that there is still so much space here. Suddenly, he sees a huge golden bell in front of him. He understands that it is really a bell, and that such a powerful energy was extracted from it. He sees that there is a large inscription on this bell that means Heavenly Bell. Suddenly, he loses gravity and falls directly on the main character. Before he had time to react, he finds himself under this bell, which is filled with enormous energy. After such a blow, the bell begins to make loud sounds and diminish. Covering his ears, he cannot stand this loud sound. The walls of this bell begin to shrink, and after a second he is trapped. Suddenly, this bell became very small. The main character does not understand what is happening here. The sky bell is a sacred object that attracts people's hearts. If he had come with evil intentions, he would not have found it. This voice came from the other side. An unknown person wants to know who the main character is. Seeing him, he said that he was a disciple of the Black Sky Temple. He looks at the boy and understands that he is too young, but at the same time he has power, so he is interested in who he is. After thinking for a while, the boy said that he was the Azure Emperor. Hearing this information, he was very shocked. Is the Azure Emperor really so young? The Emperor begins to laugh. His real body has already ascended to heaven. What he sees now is only the energetic embodiment of the image he thought out. Hearing these words, the main character realized that this emperor had a great imagination. According to legend, the Azure Emperor was able to ascend to the heavenly kingdom with the help of some secret object. Was it this bell? The emperor said that people are lazy by nature who want to achieve success without effort. They want not to work, but to look for workarounds and a secret pill, improving themselves. This is a long process. The bell brought him a lot of benefit, but it was not the main reason for his ascension to the heavenly kingdom. According to him, there is only one guaranteed secret of success. The main character really wants to hear what this secret is, and begins to ask him for this mercy. Suddenly, the Azure Emperor said that the secret lies in hard work. Over the past 1,000 years, many disciples of various temples have found themselves in the gates of heaven, but no one could pass the test of the bell. The main character is the second man after him, not by chance. He asks what if he gives him the bell and he inherits everything that belongs to him. Lenli is sure that free cheese can only be found in the mousetrap. He asks what he needs from it. The Azure Emperor sees that he is clever. He will really need something from him. The hero wants to hear first what, and he will think about accepting or not accepting his offer. Although he became immortal and ascended to the heavens, he cannot completely break the connection with the earthly world, and all because there are his successors on earth who need someone to look after them. If he promises to take care of her descendants, then his soul will become completely free from connection with this world. The hero was surprised that everything was so simple. The Azure Emperor laughs at someone, because he is not some kind of monster and would not start inventing if he were to be silenced. Suddenly the hero understood something. The Emperor lived on Earth a long time ago. During this time his lawyers had their own lawyers, and those lawyers still had lawyers. Probably there are many of his successors. In order to take care of them, he will need to spin like a squirrel in a wheel, or the payment for some bell is too high. In this case, the Emperor offers to additionally call to choose anything from the house. Suddenly the main character said that he does not want to choose. He wants to take everything. Seeing his face, the Emperor realized that a very greedy person was standing before him. Although no one can lead the Azure House to enlightenment, but there are a lot of treasures stored here, so they attract people. So instead of people destroying each other instead of the treasures, the hero offers to give all the treasures to him. The Emperor understands that people are becoming more and more greedy and evil. In his time, no one could even think to release that greed for treasures will cloud the mind of even students from the divine land. But if the main character can take everything in his hands, then it's all his. Kneeling, the hero said that he is a disciple of the Temple of the Black Sky. He swears that in exchange for the treasures of the Azure Emperor, he undertakes to take care of his successors. If he breaks the oath, let him be punished in heaven. Immediately after that, the process of losing contact with the earth began. If the hero does something wrong, his soul will be damned forever. After a while, this process was completed in the hands of the hero. There is a bell, and the opportunity to take the treasures. At this time, Lei is sitting by the lake and does not understand where Lenli has gone. Suddenly, the water began to rise. She carefully watched what would happen next. She saw that the hero had returned. She was very glad that everything was fine with them. He scared her very much. The hero replies that he should thank her. If she did, he would not have met the Azure Emperor. He will talk about this later, but now it is better to choose a few items before this girl has cleaned the whole house. After several minutes of searching, Lun doesn't understand why Lei chose only the sword and amplifiers from such a large selection of treasures. The main character asks if they took everything they wanted, and if so, he will take everything else. Lun jokes and asks if he sometimes wants to take the whole house for himself. Hearing these words, the hero realized that this was a great idea. Such a house would look great in his hometown. He offers to wait for him on the shore for now because soon it will be dangerous here. He began to try to move this house to another space. He tried with this strength to raise this house. From the outside, it looked very amazing. They were surprised to see such an unexpected turn. They realized that this place is really becoming dangerous, so they decided to leave this place after all. The main character continued to carry this house from the waterfall. Suddenly, he still managed to absorb it into himself. They were very surprised. One of them even thought it was a dream. After a few minutes, the main character landed next to them. Lei says that what he did just now is simply amazing, but it was dangerous, and he could damage his energy core. The hero asks not to worry, because now he owns all the energy of the bell, and the main work was done by the bell, not him. Having chosen Lun, he said that if she was interested, his stomach was not untied. He wants to say that they have already done a great job. Now they can leisurely explore the area to their own pleasure. Lei asks if Lun has any thoughts on the matter. The main character thinks that she has already received everything she wanted from them and will continue on her way. Lun gets angry and asks not to make fun of her, to whom she is not as he tries to make him out to be. Suddenly she takes out a map from her treasures. She does not like to feel indebted to others. This time they really helped her, and here is her thanks. When they opened it, they realized that it was a map of the gates of heaven, and they became interested in where she got it from. How can they know that the gates of heaven are opened once in 20 years? When the students of the sacred land of the past years came here, and they were obliged to make notes about everything they saw. And although not everything is depicted here, this map has helped more than one generation. There is a golden plain not far from here. If you cross it, the Gromova Okolitsia will be further on. For them, it will be of great value. In this case, the main character changes the route and decides to go to that place. After mounting their dragon, they quickly rode in that direction. Lei shouts for them to look. Here the grass and trees shine like metals. Absorbing this energy from the earth, plants also have a metallic luster. The stronger such luster emanates from the plant, the more energy there is in the earth beneath it. Lun sees that she really knows something, but the most valuable things on this earth are golden beasts. The animals that are here always drink and eat from this plain. During the years of their life, they develop metallic energy. If a little metal energy is used in the manufacture of weapons, its strength will increase tenfold. Moreover, within animals, energy arises in a normal way over a lifetime. As a result, it is much more frequent than that which people extract from gold. Suddenly, Lei started to hear some sounds. She looked out the window to see what was happening there. Looking, she saw that a herd of golden beasts was running from the side of them. The beasts were quite fast, and they began to surround their chariot. Extending her hand, the girl wanted to touch this beauty. Suddenly, she saw how golden wolves began to attack these deer. The other participants also looked in the window. The wolves were chasing these golden deer. There were more and more of them with every second. The deer, despite their speed, still fell into their teeth. The main character was happy and understood that it was a great luck, only that he was tormented by the thought that he would have to attack innocent animals. But since these wolves themselves acted as aggressors, the lessons have now been solved. Lun says that he suffered in vain. She would have done everything herself anyway. At this moment, she jumps onto the roof of this chariot. The main character saddles the dragon and starts driving in another direction. Lun began to lure them to herself. Without thinking long, the wolves began to attack her. She spread her hands and began to activate the fire ability. A moment later, these wolves fell under this hot attack. After that, only the golden elements remained of these wolves. She was right. The fire element really seems more suitable for solving such a problem. Lifting one of them, they realize that it is heavy. This piece of golden energy is the size of a fist, but weighs at least 50 kilograms. There are 7 pieces in total. They ask how they will divide them among the 3. Lei answers that if she destroyed these wolves, then most of it will be hers. Suddenly, a disciple from the sacred land appeared behind them. Joe had not seen this girl for a long time, but he had just seen a ray in the sky, and immediately thought about her that it was really her. I'll look back. He asks who those 2 are behind her. She introduces him to them, and says that these are students from the Temple of the Black Sky, Joe and the Sacred Land. He came here from the Temple of the Purple Sun. Suddenly, he angrily looked at the main character and wondered if it was really him. Lenli saw his look and asked if he knew him. The boy smiled. He said that he was the hero of the future master of the Temple of the Black Sky, and everyone heard about his heroism. Lun is glad to have met him. She asks if he has seen any of her acquaintances. He met her acquaintance several times after entering this world. All this time they moved together with him, and he was not far away. Hearing this information, the girl immediately beamed with joy. She offered to return and meet him as soon as possible, so that she found her friends. They can part here, said the hero, although she's now a student of the Sacred Land. But originally, she is from the Temple of the Black Sky, so they are also her friends in a sense. In the Holy Land with their temple long, friendly relations, they can go with them where they will look after each other. The main character thanks for the invitation, but he thinks that their friend will not be happy about his presence, so they better go their separate ways. They turned and went on a journey. Suddenly the boy shouted for them to wait. If everyone here is his, then he will be frank. Not so long ago, he and his friend and a few more friends were chasing a giant crocodile. As a result, they ended up at the foot of the rock, where they found a closed entrance to a large cave. There is no doubt that someone hid something valuable there. But in order to open it, it takes effort at the same time 7 people. He specifically went in search of helpers. He asks if they can help them open this door. Now the main character understood what this meant. It was necessary to say yes right away. Is he facing the temptation to find out what is hidden in the cave? At this time, his companions are waiting at the entrance of this cave. They hope that he can find others to open this door. The girl became interested in where her friend is now. If he found her, it would be great. Suddenly, their friend came behind them and brought new people. Seeing them, they were very happy and glad to see their friend. At this time, while they were talking, the main character approached them. Seeing him, one of them was furious to see him again. Comrade wants to introduce 2 talented students from the Temple of the Black Sky to them. He also introduces the hero to a friend whose name is Shenzan. He is the most talented student in all of the Sacred Land and holds great hopes. An angry participant asks what she was doing with the main character, Como. She replies that the disciples from the Divine Land wanted to destroy her, and he saved her. She asks him to forget past grudges, because they all come from the same temple. Other members confirm this. They need them to open this cave. After these words, they convinced him. He extends his hand and asks the main character to forget all their past conflicts and respect his hands. The hero says more hypocritical things. He can save it for someone else. He is only here for the sake of the cave. If they need his help, then he is ready. But they must discuss in advance how they will divide the cattle. They say that none of them knows what exactly is hidden inside the cave. They can only guess that there is something valuable. That's why they can't share anything ahead of time either. He suggests that as soon as the cave opens, everyone will take what they can. Hearing these words of the comrade, others were dissatisfied with such a decision. The participant asks if they see that sign. 6 points in a circle and 7 in the center. In order to open the cave, 7 people need to direct their energies to it at the same time. Lenli has understood this for a long time, so he offers to start this process as soon as possible. Having become a group, they began to activate their power and direct it to the entrance of the cave. Directing their forces at this sign, they formed a very powerful ray that connected their forces. This sign began to glow brightly. They think that soon this entrance will be activated. Suddenly they saw how the entrance door to the cave began to rise up. Seeing this, they rejoiced and immediately began to run inside with Nadia to take all the treasures. After a few meters, they slowed down their pace and began to walk more cautiously along the cave. Everything here is filled with dense spiritual energy, just like in the Azure House. Did some heavenly person live here too? If so, why does it take only minimal efforts of 7 people to open it? And it seems very strange to him. Lei excitedly asks what he was thinking about. The hero answers that there is something unclean here and let her stay behind his back. Suddenly they saw a bright light in the distance. One of them thought that it was the glow of treasures and gold. He quickened his pace to be the first to take it. But at this time he steps on some slab that activates something. Suddenly the door of this rock began to close abruptly. Turning around, they do not understand what is happening and why the door is closed. At that moment, arrows also started flying from the walls. It was a trap again. Rapid arrows started heading in their direction. Realizing that it was dangerous, they began to retreat. It seems that they have reached a dead end, having gathered together. They are trying to figure out what to do next. Entering the cave was easy, but the real trial awaits them ahead. They do not understand how they will get through such a hail of arrows on the sacred ground that they are used to attacking and have hardly studied defensive techniques. Suddenly, Lei shouted to the main character to try to pass it. Her strength is limited, but she can carry 6 people through such a hail of arrows. Lenli agrees, but if she feels weak, let her immediately turn back. Hearing this request, she smiled and agreed. Immediately after that, she began to start this work. She activated a protective barrier around them and tries to pass through these arrows. Finding themselves under this barrier, they began to hear loud and terrible sounds of arrows hitting the barrier. Lun began to rejoice that they had very little left and they would pass this stage. Suddenly, one of the participants seems to be plotting something against the main character. Without thinking long, he decides to push him through the barrier shield. Without expecting this, he begins to fall and lose control over himself. Seeing this, his girlfriend was very scared for him. Turning, she stretches out her hands to catch him. At this moment, one of the participants shouts for them to start running away from this barrier. Without thinking for a long time, they immediately began to carry out his words. Lenlei and Lei fall to the ground, but he manages to activate his weapon to defend himself. Taking her in his arms, he flies into the air and breaks all the arrows on his way. In a moment, he finds himself on the same plane as his enemies. The guy who pushed him laughs and offers him to look more carefully under his feet. The main character cannot just leave it like that. His anger is increasing with every second, and he is ready to teach him. The others ask what he was going to do. One of them laughs that he didn't do it all out of malice. No matter what, no one got hurt. So he offers to forget this misunderstanding. The hero shouts that age is no excuse. He caused him harm, and he attacked from behind. If he had reacted to it more slowly, nothing would have happened to them. If at a young age he is capable of such meanness, then what can be expected from him when he grows up? He shouts that such a thing cannot be left unpunished. Lun holds out his hand and asks him not to do this and to calm down. If he destroys it, their people will come for revenge to the Temple of the Black Sky. Upon returning, she will tell about this incident to his mentor, and he himself will punish him. This young guy stands behind and smiles slyly. But the main character reacts quickly and deals him one blow. He grabbed his face and realized that he had hit it. Shenzhen is very angry, but his friend tries to calm him down. The main character does not care who he is. If he does such a thing again, his comrades will have to drag him to the holy ground. Shenzhen shouts to be released and he will destroy the main character. At that moment, a bright layer appeared from the other side. Raising their heads, they saw a gigantic monument standing above them. Without thinking long, the monument swings and hits the ground between them. The giant stone monument continues its fight and destroys everything in its path. They understand that they have nowhere to run from him, and that there is a hail of arrows in front of them. At this time, the monument turns and runs with heavy steps in their direction. Lenli tries to take this situation into his own hands and confront him. Activating the snake, he directed it at this giant. A second later, the snake successfully approaches his hand and bites it. After a few seconds, a powerful light explosion occurs in this place. Covering his eyes, the main character tries to understand whether he managed to harm the giant. Suddenly, the silhouette of this warrior appears from the thick smoke. Lenli was very surprised that the electric discharge was useless against him. The monument approaches the boy and swings its giant weapon. He takes his swords and tries to stop this attack. Lei was very excited when she saw such a powerful blow from this monster. Lun understands that he cannot do it alone here, so she goes to help. But the boys stop her. One of them says that it is too dangerous, and the other says that she will not help him in any way. Turning towards the battle, she could not understand how it was possible to leave him alone against this monster. The main character continued to successfully fight against him. At this moment, the monument raises its hands to deliver an even more powerful blow. The blow was really strong. Crossing his swords, Lenli restrained his blow with all his might. He continued to hold this pose for a few more seconds. Gathering his strength, he resists this monument. Surprisingly, the giant cannot withstand this blow and falls to the ground. The main character understands that, no matter what, this enemy is really very strong. He sees that the monument stands up again as if nothing had happened. He understands that although the enemy is strong, he lacks intelligence. He outsmarted him easily and went around him from behind. Being behind him, he activates a new ability that is related to the dragon. Immediately after that, there was a very powerful blow. The power of that ability is amazing. Seeing this, the comrades of the main character were excited for him. But he remained alive. Lei went to him to make sure that everything was fine with him. She asks how he understood how exactly it can be defeated. The hero answers that at first he thought that he was made of metal, but he did not react to the electric discharge. Then he realized that it was simple clay and used it. The participant starts laughing and praises him for his intelligence and strength. He also says that the hero fully deserves his fame. Lenli replies that he is not as smart as the students from the sacred land who waited for the end of the battle on the sidelines. You can say they got the victory without drawing their sword. They answer that they were just looking at the big picture as a whole. Who knows what pitfalls await them ahead? They wanted to conserve their strength for the protection of the group in the future. The hero offers to stop coming up with excuses all the way and start doing something yourself. Hearing these words, one of the participants was very angry with him. Lenli proposes new rules. No matter how much pasta is still in front of them, the found treasures will be divided according to the size of the personal contribution to the common cause. They will have the right to be the first to choose the thing they like because they were the first two to start these trials. The others were indignant, but the chief of them smiled and agreed to these rules. Without thinking for a long time, they set off to continue through this cave. It seems that the other participants have planned something bad against them. Lun sees their reaction and is excited for the future, but she doesn't say anything and just follows them. Her friend asks what's wrong with her. Lun replies that she thinks their brothers have changed. Hearing this, she replied that she had not noticed anything like that. Lun is sure that it is wrong to stand on the sidelines and watch how someone alone tries to cope with the trap. Secondly, she smiled and reminded that now they will be able to choose the treasures first. The main thing is that they are alive and whole. Suddenly it began to seem to her that this cave was getting hotter with every step. Looking at the mountain, they saw how small lights appeared from their side. Suddenly a small skeleton appeared in front of them. Immediately after that, the rest of his body appeared. The main character smiled and asked who is the bravest and will start fighting this monster. Of all those present, Lun was the first to offer to fight this monster. She wants to prove to the main character that the students from the Holy Land are not cowards. At this moment, the monster does not wait for preparation and immediately begins its battle. Cold fire attacks began to fly towards the girl. Immediately after that, she activates a fire phoenix and repels the first attacks. Phoenix, without thinking for a long time, began to follow her orders and attack this monster with the help of fire. Who washes the monster seems to have lost its essence. Lun smiled and said that her fire never spares anyone. The guys behind were happy for her. The main character does not understand when she managed to tame such a big bird. The boy next to him asks the heroes to fulfill his own offer. They will share the treasure in proportion to the effort invested. Suddenly this monster reappeared after a few seconds and out of nowhere. Taking his staff, he is ready to continue this battle for his victory. He also had his own bird which he placed in front of him. It also seems to be a phoenix bird. Instead of a hot flame, it has a cold one. The girl says that she was able to destroy him once, so she will be able to do it again. Immediately after that, Phoenix began to make more powerful attacks. A battle began between them where the cold fought against the heat. The flame was very hot. It reached even her companions. Therefore, Lei activated an auxiliary shield to protect herself from this hot flame. One of the guys is asking for this battle to be over quickly because it's getting very hot in this room. She seems to have forgotten that not everyone here cultivates the element of fire, which confuses the main character. Lei continues to hold the defense and tries to hold the barrier defense as long as possible. At this moment, the main character approaches her on the wings and takes her away from this dangerous place. He continues to fly over this battle trying to analyze the enemy. He noticed that the staff of this monster emits the most energy. Having analyzed this, the main character reports that all the strength is contained in his drought. After these words, she understood that it was necessary to act and became very motivated. Suddenly, the monster sees a pillar of fire appear in front of him. Taking her sword, she jumped over him to successfully attack. After a moment, she manages to get close to him and successfully attack him. This monster felt the hot flame and began to scream very loudly from this blow. After a few seconds, it completely dissolved in the air. Pieces of ice began to fall to the ground. With confident steps, Lun walks away from this hot place. Seeing that everything was resolved differently, the participants breathed a sigh of relief. Polruga was very worried because it was very hot here and it was dangerous. Lun apologizes. It's just that during the battle, her head was occupied only with thoughts of victory. If the main character hadn't told her about the staff, she would have turned this cave into a volcano very soon. So he offers another half of her fate should go to him, Lun understands. He turns out to be greedy and won't give up even a penny. The guy asks to stop telling someone that the gates of heaven will close soon and they never got out of this cave. They decided that the following traps should be dealt with immediately. Therefore, having made this decision, they quickly began to undergo other tests. A few hours later, they saw a bright glow at the end of the cave. Coming out into this light, they saw heaven and earth. For them it was great joy, and they also saw a high house. Seeing it, they were sure that there must be treasures there. The main character asks this time not to be ashamed, as in the azure house of the emperor. Otherwise, someone will again take away half of all cattle in their hands. Suddenly, a member's sword appeared at his neck, ordering him not to move if he wanted to live. The three boys still waited for this moment and are ready to get rid of him. Turning around, Lun saw this and asked what they were doing. But Lenli knew that such a moment would come, and finally they took off their masks. They agree that if he was killed one-on-one, he would most likely defeat them. But now there are 5 of them, and there are only 2 of them, and they have no chance. If he does not give them his ring along with all the treasures, then he will destroy him on the spot. Smiling, the boy asked, "Does he think that he will rely on such a thing, if he gives all the good freely?" then they will no longer need him. The guy said that if he is so smart, why didn't he foresee today's situation? Suddenly, the youngest member does not understand why they are taking time and starts the battle. Swinging at the protagonist, they almost survived, but were stopped by a fiery sword. With one blow, Lun protected the hero's shoulders from their attacks. After seeing this action, the youngest participant asks her not to meddle in her business. But she will not let them disgrace the sacred earth for personal gain, so she will protect the main character. It turns out that there are still well-educated people left on the Holy Land, and the hero thought they were all being raised like animals. These words offended the girl. She asks to speak more politely. Her brother approaches her and says that in the end, they themselves are from the Temple of the Black Sky. There is no more terrible attack than to destroy one's ally. After hearing these words, the boys do not understand why he started saying such things. You can leave them alive. Hearing these words, Lun was happy. She always knew that honor was in the first place for him. But at this moment, he imperceptibly activates the technique and attacks it. Unexpectedly, she cannot do anything about it and falls to the ground from the impact. At this moment, the main character runs to her and tries to catch her. After a moment, he found himself in this place and holding her in his hands. The participant is sure that in this situation she should only blame herself. He asks not to worry. He did not hit her with full force. She will be able to recover very soon, but she will not be able to protect anyone. At this point, the other participant, Lei, takes his control. He says that if the main character wants her to survive, then let her give him all the treasures that he got in this world. Seeing that she was being held hostage, the hero was very angry. Without thinking, he takes off his ring to give it to him. It was a sharp decision. Taking off the ring, he throws it to the boys. Now they are sure that without this ring, the main character is nothing. With a confident step, one of them approaches him. All the humiliations of the hero towards him will be returned to him tenfold. Lenli says that it is unwise to destroy the bridge until they have reached the other shore. Do they think that it will no longer be useful to them? The participant orders to stop making threats to whom they have already found the tower with treasures, and they definitely don't need it anymore. Immediately after these words, he brings his hand closer to him to deliver the first strike. At that moment, he hears a voice asking him to stop. Turning around, he is dissatisfied and asks what else they want from him. The most important one says that his words have meaning. There was so much pasta in the middle of the cave, it is not yet completely clear what will happen next. The youngest one asks why they are listening to him. In this way, he wants to buy time for himself. But the other boy decides to listen to the elder. He is still like a bird without wings and will not go anywhere. And on the way back, he will make the hero feel all his anger. Immediately after these words, they release them and set them free. But at that moment, another participant forms a small cage around them. This thorn flower is impregnated with poison. If this poison enters the body, it will soon be possible to save it. The boy would not advise him to try to get out. It is better to spend the remaining time saying goodbye to life. The older participant orders the other two to stay here and follow him, while he and the younger one go while they see what is in this tower. Immediately after these words, they went to the tall building. Considering how many traps were set on the way to this tower, he is sure that there must be amazing treasures stored there. He thinks that now these two will take the most valuable, and he will be left with only the remnants. After thinking it over, he tells his sister that they may not make it, so he will also go with them and let her look after the others. Immediately after that, he quickly catches up with his brothers. Lei asks the hero what they will do. Will they just sit and wait for the end? Lun turns to her sister and says that she herself sees that their brothers are going crazy. But she can still save them. Strauss freely asks not to involve her in this. She cannot but obey her brothers. The final time of her brothers has already been assigned to whom, if she does not let them go, she will regret it very much. After hearing the main character's words, the girl confusedly asks what it means. The guy lies down on the ground and says that he warned her that the next move will follow her. He is already so tired today, so he better go to sleep. At the same time, the guys opened the first front door. Opening them, they saw in front of them a high mountain of gold. When they came closer, they realized that it was metal energy. If they destroyed all the golden beasts of the plain, they would receive less energy than in this stone. All the value of the golden plain is nothing compared to what is now in front of them. Just think if they had not chased after that giant crocodile, they would never have found this tower. The brother asks what they are waiting for, because now it is all theirs. Immediately after that, they put their hands and began to mine this gold. Their greed was very high indeed. They continued to pick gold from my pockets. At this time, they raised their heads and were surprised by what they saw. An unknown monster from this mountain appeared before them. Suddenly, a giant beast made of gold appeared in front of them. They understood that this is the fifth son of the dragon. They thought that they had already passed all the traps. Where did he come from? One of them confidently offered to destroy him with joint forces. Immediately after that, they activate their abilities and prepare to fight. The powerful beast began to sow even more and sees how attacks are planned for him. Suddenly, from the yard, it was clear that the house began to shake. Seeing this, their sister was worried. She thought what could be happening there. She asks her sister if she thinks her brothers are doing well. Lone asks if the main character knows what's inside. If he knows, let him speak quickly. Lenli asks, "Is it not taught to count on the sacred land? Do they remember that sign at the entrance to the cave? There were 7 dots on it in total." He asks how many traps they passed, so they themselves can count what is wrong here. The girl immediately began to count the traps they passed, and they realized that they passed 6 traps out of 7. This made the guy get up from the ground. He says that everything is obvious here. The last 7th trap is located in this tower. Each subsequent trap was more dangerous than the last, and considering that these 3 were not at all ready to meet the last test, the chances of their victory are very minimal. The sister is sure that he is not right. The brothers are one of the best students of the Holy Land, to whom they will be able to stand up for themselves and get out alive. Turning around, she saw how this house literally began to fall apart, and her brothers, who were very tired, jumped out of it. The foot of the giant stepped on one of them. One brother managed to escape. Suddenly, in the mouth of this beast was their youngest brother, who was calling for help. But after a moment, the monster stops playing with him and does his business instead of breakfast. The eldest brother turns to the main character. He admits that they were wrong. Greed clouded their mind, and he asks for help. This tower has a large piece of metal energy. If he saves them, he can take it for himself completely, and they will not even touch it. After hearing this offer, the boy realized that it was a really favorable condition. But if they leave the world, then all this treasure will go to him anyway. Why should he save them? Another brother shouts to remind him not to forget in whose hands his life is. The main hero had a very good rest this time, and now he has completely regained his strength. Did they really think that this cage could get him? He destroys its walls with ease. Seeing his power, the participant was greatly frightened. At this moment, the main character starts whistling, calling someone. His pet called Snowball began to appear from his ring. She takes the ring from the enemy and runs to the main character. At this moment, the giant monster raises its paw to step on one of the brothers. Raising his head, he saw this big paw and did not know what to do. A moment later, there was a very heavy step of this giant monster. After that, the monster falls on all 4s and starts running after another. The sister sees that help is needed and tries to harm this monster. Directing her powers to the monster's eyes, she manages to detain him for a while. But the brother does not even pay attention to her and continues to save his life. She sees this action and did not understand why he does this to her. At that moment, the monster approaches her and opens its big mouth. After a moment, he makes a quick bite, but this girl manages to be saved by her sister on her bird. Activating their phoenix, the 2 of them find themselves in a safe place. The brother continues to run and sees the main character in front of him. He shouts that he's to blame for what happened, so now he will do everything to make him pay for this result. Lenli smiles and asks why he is here. They are the ones who awakened this beast. He asks if it is not enough to translate from a sick head to a healthy one. The battle continues between them. The main character makes a powerful blow from which the opponent flies very far. This guy gains great speed and flies straight towards the giant monster. Their sisters watch this and do not understand what they should do now. Suddenly, a giant monster sees the main character on its way. Lei saw this and shouts that he was running away. Spreading its paws, the monster attacks this young man. He makes a big bite again, but the main character manages to jump back. While in the air, he activates one of his abilities, which he directs at this beast. If he is so hungry, then the hero will feed him now. He gets into a pose and activates a lot of lightning layers near him. He directs his attacks directly at the target he sees in front of him. These layers of lightning fly right into the golden monster instead of food. Lei observes this stage and decides to help the main character. And besides her, a girl who controls a phoenix comes to help. Gathering all their joint forces, they fight against this monster as a group. Gathering all their strength, they direct him to the very place where the main character directed him. After feeding this monster so much energy, it begins to crack from overeating. A moment later, a very powerful, bright explosion took place at this place. All the participants then landed next to this monster. But what they saw surprised them. This monster is known for its greed. It knows no measure. No matter how much it is fed, it will still swallow everything. He swallowed the brothers and absorbed all of their energy. After that, the 4 of them fed him their energy as well. His body would not be able to handle that amount of energy, and at some point he would have to lose. He is not the only one who was destroyed by greed today. If their brothers knew the measure, maybe things would have been different. Suddenly, Lei saw a very bright light in the distance and asked them to look there. They approach this place and understand that it is liquid gold. The effects of its use are hundreds of times higher than those of using metallic energy. Liquid gold is one of the most valuable materials. Previously, the hero had only heard about him. It was probably because of him that they overcame all the traps. The overeating monster still lost this battle and fell near this lake. Now there are only 4 of them left, so they will share the face equally. This liquid includes their brothers, so they will not even touch it. Lei had heard that liquid gold was hard as a bone, and she would like to keep her flexibility. If they all refuse, the main character decides to take everything for himself. He jumps over this lake and begins to survey all its energy. Absorption of this energy was quite difficult for the body. Energy began to circulate through his body and fill all his parts. His body is filled with the energy of liquid gold, to whom this feeling cannot be conveyed. They contemplate this phenomenon and worry whether it absorbs too much energy. Lun agrees with her. There must be a limit to this. His body may not be able to digest such a volume of energy. If he does not stop absorbing the liquid gold energy, the same thing as this monster may happen to him. Lei reaches out and begs the main character to stop absorbing this gold. But he feels how every cell of his body is filled with energy. Is it possible to refuse such a thing? Immediately after that, he began to feel pain in the middle of his body. Suddenly there was a very powerful explosion that worried everyone around. But when they looked, they saw that the hero still remained alive after this procedure. He has completely absorbed all the energy. They are surprised that such a thing is possible. Probably he has already gone beyond the limits of his body's capabilities. He scared his girlfriend very much. He laughs and asks if something could happen to him. Although he took all the liquid gold for himself, he also remembers her. When they get to the stormy place, they will definitely find something useful for her. He turns and asks the other girl if she will go further with them. After this question, she began to doubt and did not know what to do. Her sister asks not to worry. No one blames her for what happened. After hearing these words, her heart became much lighter. She agreed to this proposal. It is said that once upon a time, in the area of the thunderstorm's foot, a real dragon was struck by lightning. In that place, thunderstorms almost never stop. Due to the year-round rain, the land there turned into a swamp, and various predatory animals started there. The body of the little dragon disintegrated into a large number of treasures, which attracted many participants of the Heavenly Gate. The most powerful in treasure was considered to be an entertainment alien that grew inside the body of a true dragon. For the cultivators of the element of thunder, it was the most valuable. At this time, other participants also gathered near this place. The Thunder Pearl is capable of accelerating cultivation for many years. Such an opportunity should not be lost. Without thinking for a long time, the team of these participants set out to find treasures. After flying into the air, very rough lightnings began to hit these participants. The main character's team saw this. It seems this place is much more dangerous than they thought. Suddenly, Lun started to feel bad. Her sister asks what happened to her. Compared to them, Luan cultivates the element of fire. It is obvious that being in such a place has a dangerous effect on her. In that case, it's better for the two of them to stay here and wait until they come back. Lenli offers to take the longevity flu. It will help heal her injury. When I dream, he will also leave them in case of danger. They should not wait for them. As they started to leave, Luan turns to the main character. Bending her head, she asks that he be sure to stay alive. He smiles and asks who will play pranks on her when he is gone. Immediately after that, they leave them. Luan asks them to come back soon. Having developed speed, they quickly move through this dangerous forest. His animals have a good sense of smell for cargo discharges. If you follow him, nothing should happen to them. Lei asks if he noticed that the rain stopped falling, and it didn't get any drier under his feet. His animal suddenly stopped and started barking. The main character understands that his animal seems to have found something. After walking a few more meters, they saw a hole and a large magnetic field in front of them. Raising their heads, they saw what prompted them to come here. It was a stormy pearl. They were pleased to see her. At this time, they hear someone laughing loudly behind them. Seeing him, the main character asks what Cullen is doing here. He laughs and thanks for the fact that they brought him here. He has been wandering around the neighborhood for several days. If it were not for them, it is still unknown when he would have found it. Lei sees that something has changed in him. The hero himself noticed that now a completely different spirit emanates from him. The heavens were kind to him. As soon as he entered this world, he immediately found a purple deer seed, which allowed him to break through the boundaries of his own cultivation. He angrily asks if the hero remembers how he ran into his cloudy ship, and in front of everyone he humiliated him. Today, he will definitely pay for it. Lenli laughs and realizes that this is a coincidence because he also went out of his body. Without thinking for a long time, his opponent immediately activates his new capabilities. A strange animal that mixed with others began to attack the main character. He's surprised by its size, but he's already activating liquid gold to attack. Immediately after that, he hits the paw of this beast, and there is a powerful explosion. Is this all his enemy is capable of? Is this all the capabilities of a purple stag? Seeing the hero's attack, Cullen creates a protective barrier around himself. After a moment, the protagonist approaches him and strikes with his two swords. This guy's defenses seem to be starting to crumble from this hit. The main character's girlfriend is approaching the epicenter of this blow. Lenli looks around and can't see anything. He doesn't understand where this guy is hiding. At this moment, the girl is also in this thick smoke and is trying to find the main character. At this moment, an enemy's hand appears from behind and attacks the boy. Not expecting this, he falls to the ground from this blow. He understands that it is not just a fog. He did not feel the threat approaching at all. It is good that at least he managed to improve his body with liquid gold. Otherwise, he would have been gone. Cullen sees that the hero was not ready for the blow at all. The purple smoke blocks all 5 senses. Only he alone has immunity to it. Immediately after these words, he activates something more dangerous than this smoke. Quick blows rush through the main character's body. He is unable to dodge them. The opponent becomes funny. He asks if he feels the end is approaching. At this moment, he activates a huge mace and prepares for his final blow. Swinging this big iron, he hits the designated place. He says that this is how it ends or who offends him. Suddenly he hears a voice behind him saying that he is rejoicing early. Lenley is behind him and is already swinging for his blow. The opponent turns around and asks why he is still alive. Purple smoke can really block all 5 senses. But he did not consider that lightning and thunder were happening around them. He used electrical discharges to awaken his senses. Therefore, now having gathered enough energy, he is ready to continue this battle. Having flown into the sky, he directs a powerful blow to this center. Now it was his turn to deliver the finishing blow. But at this moment, the opponent takes out his big weapon again and blocks the blows. His body was greatly strained by such a blow. He feels a lot of damage to his body. Touching his lost hand, he begins to cry. This made him even more angry, and he wants to completely erase the memory of the main character. Lenley wonders how he manages to maintain confidence in his abilities even after losing his arm. After that, he swings one of his swords and prepares to finish it off. But at this moment, his opponent reaches out with his other hand and responds with his own blows. It seems that this was a trick that allowed him to disappear from this place. The main character understands that he is a master of disappearance. Lei says that if he is allowed to return to the Temple of the Purple Sun, his people will surely take revenge. He understands that their relationship with their temple was already bad. He will only be happy if this case becomes a ghost for the discovery of the enemy, or it is long time for their temple to reveal a stronger one. Hearing these words, she asked in surprise what he meant. He smiles and offers to talk about it a little later. This storm, which is a foreigner, continues to absorb more and more thunderstorm discharges. Its value today is difficult to overestimate. After a few seconds, he activates his wings and flies up to this pearl. Without thinking for a long time, he hits the pearl with the help of his sword. The thunder pearl cracks and splits in half from one blow. And from that pearl immediately appears a new kind of dragon that flies into the sky. He sees that this dragon is running away and understands that he needs to be caught. Activating one of his abilities, he casts a strong magical net on this dragon. Duracon gets into a closed space where it is very difficult for him to move. In addition, the boy begins to reduce it to such a size that it fits in his hand. Looking at him, he saw that now the dragon is very small. He asks not to be afraid of him. He will not harm him. He was locked inside the pearl for so many years. He wonders how this dragon fought with sadness. He lands with his girlfriend and shows off his new pet. She congratulates him with this new animal. Now his cultivation will be impossible to contain. Suddenly he says that he is giving this little dragon her. He promised her that she would not leave this world without a real treasure to whom she had helped him so much in recent times. Could he allow her to return empty-handed? After hearing her words, it became very uncomfortable to look into his eyes. This dragon quickly got used to the new owner, and it seems he liked her better. Suddenly they noticed that this plane became light. Raising their heads to the sky, they saw that the clouds that had been here for hundreds of years began to disappear and a bright sun appeared. The thunder pearl absorbed all the thunder discharges. Now that the sky has cleared, there will be a lot of willing participants. They have already taken the most valuable thing into their own hands. There is nothing else for them to do. So he offers to return to their new girlfriends. After walking some distance, they jumped on the carriage and drove to the exit. Lei tells what happened there. Cullen followed them and attacked the main character, and he almost destroyed him, but it was self-defense. Another is surprised because this guy is the head of the Temple of the Purple Sun. They won't just leave it like that, and they will have problems when they come back. Suddenly they turned around and saw that behind them were 1,000 disciples of the Temple of 1,000 Spirits. There is very little time left before the gates of heaven close, and all the students rush to the exit. Not all students cope with the task of finding treasures for themselves. So closer to closing the gate, the battle begins. For some it is the last chance to get something valuable. They continue to drive and see the exit portal in front of them. Parallel to this, 2 groups of students are standing on the same path. The Heaven's Gate is about to close. Qianzhan asks why they don't hurry to the exit themselves and block the way for others. In front of them are the disciples of the Temple of the Red Clouds. John asks how they could see that their stay here is very valuable. Didn't they teach sharing in their temples? Everyone who wants to pass must give them half of their treasures. Hearing these conditions, the other students became indignant. The Red Cloud Temple only achieved its prosperity through the efforts of others. After they joined the Sacred Dragon Order, they became virtually invincible. Will they really have to give half of their treasures? The other students heard these words and began to shout that they would not give it away for anything. Jan warns that if they don't kindly give half, they will start attacking them. Suddenly, the disciple of Beast Comfort, the Red Wolf, stepped forward. Having made such a path here, they became stronger. Let there be more of them. But if they fight together, they will be able to give them a Vitpir. After hearing these words, Qianzhan agreed with his opinion. There is no need to fear them. Another is asked if he takes on too much. It's time to learn to respect the Temple of Red Clouds. Immediately after that, he activates his abilities and begins the battle. But at that moment, the Red Wolf activates its ability, and a mighty bear appears behind it. The giant bear begins to run with heavy steps towards its opponent. Suddenly, instead of 2 hands, he has several, but the opponent makes powerful attacks. He already thought that he is so brave because during his stay here, he managed to master something powerful, and this is just a big bear. He stretches out his hand and shouts that a 5th-level animal will not scare him at all. Other students see this battle and understand that they need help. A moment later, the battle to get out of this world began. The others remained on the sidelines and asked what they should do. It seems that they don't want to part with the treasures just like that. Yan suggests to relax, and as soon as he destroys their leader, everyone will calm down. Without thinking for a long time, he starts and runs to solve this conflict. A moment later, he jumps over this bear and prepares to destroy it. After a few seconds, he easily manages to win this battle. The disciples saw that their leader was hurt and they were left alone. Jan says that if one of them moves, they will have to carry their comrade in a handcart. If they don't want to share in half, he will take everything. Immediately after these words, he begins to laugh loudly. Suddenly, an arrow appears behind him and attacks him. Not expecting this, he falls to the ground unconscious. They saw that it was done by the main character who came to the teleport. Without thinking for a long time, they ran to meet them. They are very happy to see them again, whom they thought they had already left this world and returned to Earth. Suddenly, Qianzhan saw Luan and angrily asked what she was doing with them. The main character says that he will tell about the origin of their friendship later. The other students don't understand what they should do now without the leader. If he did this to the strongest student of their temple, then they better not resist. Immediately after that, they realized that they needed to run away before they were noticed. But Lenli saw this and ordered them to stand. He asked who said that you have to pay for the exit. Turning around, they realized that they had a problem. But they are afraid of the main character and throw away everything that was accumulated during their stay in this world. Red Wolf, thank you for the fact that he came to the rescue in time. Without him, they would not have managed. But he was still on his way here. The ring of these people they can divide among themselves. Hearing this proposal, they were very happy. Suddenly, Qianzhan pointed to the gate and shouted that it was starting to close. Raising their heads, they really saw that the teleport was beginning to tighten. If they don't get out in time, they will stay here until the next gate opens. Given the danger, they won't last 20 years here. The main character is surprised and asks why they are standing. He suggests to get out of this place faster. He picked up speed and is trying to get out of this world. Other students move on foot and realize that they may not be able to make it. Some students were so panicked that they thought they would never get out of here. They see how others are already starting to climb the portal. The dragon continues to move them quickly towards the portal. Suddenly, he developed such great speed that he was able to fly right up to the portal. The portal was already very small. They were very worried about whether their carriage would be contained. After a moment, the portal to the exit completely disappeared with no way to enter again. The next portal will open in 20 years. Those who are left have very little chance of survival. At this time, the master is waiting for his students from the portal. They saw their chariot appear from it as well. In this world, the portal has also completely closed. Other masters saw that there were not enough people. One of them could not see his son among the students. Suddenly, the master of the purple sun asks his son where his hand went. He turns to the main character and makes it clear that he did it. An angry father runs to his side and shouts why he made his son a cripple. The master intercedes, and if he has any complaints against his student, let him first express them to him. The master says that the student left his son without an arm, and he needs compensation. The main character must leave this world. After hearing these threats, the protagonist's master said that if even one hair fell from his student, he would completely destroy their temple. At this time, another master approaches them and asks them to calm down. If they have listened to one side, then they need to listen to the other to understand the situation. The main character is asked if it is because of him that this boy no longer has an arm. The master asks him to tell the truth and not to fear for his life, so that he does not do anything he will be responsible for. Lanley confidently says that he did it because this guy attacked him first. He followed them in order to destroy them and take the Thunder Pearl, and this girl can confirm everything. But this does not suit him, because they are from the same temple, and her words do not prove anything at all. He is sure that his son would never do such a thing. Suddenly, the other disciples said if they don't believe them, then let them listen to him. Their disciples attacked everyone for scarabs. Let him search him and find evidence. The chief master says that it is such an accusation that it is necessary to react somehow. He looks at his son and realizes that he really did it. He approaches him and beats him. He disgraced him and their entire temple. When they return home, he will be responsible for this act. The master turns to the brothers. His son behaved unworthily and asks for forgiveness for his behavior. He offers to go down to the city, and he will definitely punish his son after returning home. The master of the main character reminds that he admitted in front of everyone that his son himself is guilty of this. He hopes that he will not hear any more claims against them. They all really need to rest, because they do not leave this master and go to the city. Left alone, the father of this son was very angry. His son is standing behind him and is afraid to ask him something. Suddenly, the father breaks everything around him and promises that he will definitely take revenge on others. At this time, all the students and the master went down to the city. The master says that the hero spent his time in the heavenly gates very fruitfully. He does not even know how anyone else could take such a large amount of treasures. He fulfilled all his expectations and he is proud of him. But he must not flaunt it in public. No one outside their temple must know what he has accomplished. And he asks to sell it to his friend, not to brag about their situations to others. He himself must understand the true value of the obtained treasures. After the purge of the traitors, there are not so many people left in their temple. If everyone becomes aware of the treasures, there will be those who want to get them. Hearing these words, the main character understood him. At this moment, Cullen is at home. His doctor is trying to bandage his arm. Suddenly he got sick, and he ordered this man, "What is the use of this ointment? Will it help new hands to appear?" His father came and ordered this man to go away. The son asks if he will be without an arm forever. The father asks not to worry. He does not go to the best doctors for him, no matter what it costs him. He remembers the main character and realizes that he hates him even more. He offers to destroy this boy, but the father says that it will be too easy. He and his mentor must be responsible for it by another method. Smiling, his son asks what he means. The father says that he will destroy their entire temple and erase even the memory of them. At this time, the girls are at the local bazaar and buy jewelry. They can't stop and see so many beautiful things. After a few minutes, they go to the exit. She carried away toil in the heavenly gate, so they deserved so many purchases. The main character spoiled her mood by refusing to go with her to the market, and she needed to compensate for it with something. Suddenly she saw a dragon. She's surprised that the main character really gave her this little dragon. They do not understand, since when he became such a generous lump, in childhood it was even difficult to ask him for candy. She says that the main character treats her too well. After hearing these words, she was ashamed and asked not to joke. And he treats everyone well. It's just a thank you for her help. Suddenly they hear conversations about the main character and his results after his return. The guys sitting at the table discussed all his achievements. The path to the Temple of the Black Sky is not close. They laugh and say that anything can happen on the way. Lei says that the main character said that all his results should be a secret. How do they know about all this? Probably someone specially spreads these rumors so that he will have problems. It turns out that the main character is now in danger. He doesn't think for a long time. Do they leave this market and want to report